Ready? George, ready? I'd like to call the February meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission to order. Paul, would you take the roll?
Alan Brown.
Present.
Jeffrey Parks.
Present.
Jennifer Bourne.
Present.
Heather Clemmer. Neela Crank-Clements.
Present.
George Massey.
Present.
Mary Jo Meacham.
Present.
Ann Zacharitz.
Present.
And Greg Eddington. You have a quorum.
Thank you. I'd like to go over the procedures for the meeting. They're on the back of the agenda. The chairman will announce each case and ask any party having interest in the case to indicate their presence by raising their hand. Commissioners will then discuss the details of the case, calling on staff to provide details of the proposals. Following this discussion, commissioners may choose to ask questions of the applicant, the staff, and any other interested party. Interested persons may speak to support or protest the application. The applicant will be entitled to one brief rebuttal. Interaction between applicant and protestants on the floor is not permitted. Persons speaking are asked to approach the center podium one at a time to introduce themselves by name and address and to present their position as succinctly as possible. Also sign the sheet. The Commission asks each speaker to limit his or her remarks to no more than 5 minutes. Following this public hearing on an application, the Commission will take one of the following actions. 1, approve the certificate of appropriateness. 2, continue the proposal. 3, deny the proposal with prejudice, which means the application may not be resubmitted for at least 1 year until the Commission determines unless the Commission determines that circumstances have changed. Or 4, deny the proposal without prejudice, which means the applicant may reapply at any time. And then when an application has been approved and after a 10-day protest period has expired, the Historic Preservation Officer will mail the CA to the applicant. And city construction permits cannot be issued until the CA has been issued. And finally, any person aggrieved by the decision granting or denying a CA may appeal to the Oklahoma City Board of Adjustment within 10 days of the Commission decision by filing a written notice of appeal with the clerk of the Board of Adjustments. Okay, so that's the process. And if you would also silence your cell phones. Commissioners too. Oh, Heather's made it. Good. Okay, from the Office of the Historic Preservation Officer.
We are announcing every month that our June meeting is going to be held on May 29th and that the deadline for that June meeting is April 30th, which is a departure from our normal schedule, but that's so that the Commission can attend the statewide Historic Preservation Conference. So just trying to make people aware in advance that those deadlines are going to be a change from the usual routine. And then wanted to announce that on May 15th, 16th, and 17th, we'll be having some hands-on wood window repair workshops, and we'll have more information about location and about registering for that coming up shortly.
Okay, thank you, Katie. On to item 3, acceptance of minutes of previous meeting. Any comments or corrections to the minutes? Or is there a motion for approval?
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Good. It's been moved by Neela Crank-Clements, second by George Massey. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the minutes are accepted. Code enforcement report. Is Greg here? Really?
I don't believe we have anyone from code enforcement this month. Hopefully we'll have someone who's able to attend starting next month. But if you have any questions about particular items, just pass them along to Angela or myself, and we can follow up with you.
As a more general question, there are several that are noted as the descriptions listed as special case. What do you have any idea what that means?
I do not know what that means, but we can find out.
We have a lot of very special cases. So, all right, thank you.
Okay, so on to continuance announcements and requests, item 5.
We have had no previous requests on the agenda. We do have a new continuance for 14-00241, and that can be continued to the March 4th meeting.
Which one's that?
It is number 10.
Okay.
Make a motion to continue to the March 4th meeting, HPCA-14-00241.
Good. Look, Jennifer. Okay.
Second.
Officially. Okay, so moved by Heather Clemmer, and seconded by Jennifer Bourne. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Continued. On to public hearings.
No dilapidated structures this month. We have one National Register nomination. Linda Ozan and Allison Archambault from the State Historic Preservation Office are here. And I believe a representative of the property is here. I'm not sure. I thought they were, but maybe not. This is a nomination that was submitted for Czech Hall of Oklahoma City, Lodge, Alaska, also known as Bohemian Hall at 515 Southwest 6th Street. As we've talked about before, because we're a certified local government, the Historic Preservation Commission reviews National Register nominations that come from Oklahoma City and makes a recommendation that goes on to City Council and the Mayor, and then to the State Historic Preservation Office's Review Committee, and then on to the National Park Service. This property was constructed in 1924 and was headquarters for the Western Czech Brotherhood Association in Oklahoma City. It replaced a previous building on the same location, I believe, and has been nominated under Criteria A, which is for its association with events that have made a significant contribution to the broad patterns of our history, and as well as under Criterion C for properties that embody the distinctive characteristics of a type, period, method of construction, or that represent the work of a master, possess high artistic values, or represent a significant and distinguishable entity whose components lack individual distinction. As far as we know, there's not a tax credit project or anything like that planned for this property. It's just being nominated to recognize it as a historic part of the city. So kind of an interesting little building, and we appreciate the nominator's work on the document.
Katie, I have a question. Could you remind me and maybe some others here what it means to have a building placed on the National Register? What does it mean for future development of that structure?
So being listed on the National Register does not put any kind of regulation on the building from the city perspective, and a private property owner can do whatever they like using private funds and resources to the property. The National Register only comes into play as far as a regulatory tool when there is a federal involvement. Obviously, when the city is looking at an area and determining if it's historic or not, if it's on the National Register, then that's kind of an easy box to check. Just when we're evaluating.
So is that only for
something.
tax credits if they're trying to use something like that?
Yes, so if something's on the National Register, then it would qualify for historic tax credits.
State and national,
Yes,
at this point.
yes.
There's no representative of the owner here? Okay.
This nomination was prepared by someone other than the owner, and we did hear from the owners with some questions about what it meant to be on the National Register, but they haven't objected to the nomination. So they didn't prepare it themselves, but they're not opposing it.
Okay. Any comments on the nomination or a motion?
I recommend the nomination of Czech Hall to the Mayor and City Council, the Oklahoma Historic Preservation Review Committee, the State Historic Preservation Officer, and the Keeper of the National Register, and recommend that we adopt the resolution provided as part of the staff report.
Second.
Is that Jennifer? So moved by Neela Craig Clemens, second by Jennifer Bourne. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, the nomination is recommended. And now on to consent docket cases. Anybody like to remove a case for individual consideration?
I move to approve the consent docket, all 4 items.
Okay, just a second.
Yeah, second.
Okay, it's been moved by Jennifer Bourne, second by Jeffrey Parks. All in favor? Aye. Okay, opposed? Consent docket is approved. And now, cases for individual consideration, item D.
HPCA 14-00144 at 414 Northwest 24th Street, Jefferson Park, Ward 2. Consideration and possible action on application of Sheila Fraguela of Vintage Oklahoma Properties for certificate of appropriateness to 1 replace windows required.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hello?
My name is Sheila Fraguela on behalf of Vintage Oklahoma Properties. And I'm going to let Charles Jorge, the owner of the properties, address you. He's got more information than I do, if it's
Okay.
all right with you.
Okay, let's see if the commissioners have any questions or comments first. And the staff.
I think staff requested additional information. Was that received?
I believe that the owner or the contractor was going to come and try to address some of those concerns. The additional information was about addressing some differences that we identified between the proposed windows and the historic windows and ensuring that the replacements were going to be a close match.
Yeah, the contractor couldn't make it, but he did meet with Charles Jorge, who's the owner, so he has more information, detailed information, that he can address you, if it's all right.
So it looks like staff was noting that we need to have more documentation.
Well, we did
Measurements on
provide-
record.
We did provide the additional documentation.
I don't see it in the packet. Katie, is that correct or no?
Since the first time this was on, we got additional documentation, so we have complete documentation for replacement windows, but the complete documentation of the replacement windows didn't appear to match the historic windows, if that makes
Okay.
sense.
Okay.
So while it's complete, we were asking for more information that would show replacement windows that were going to match the historic windows.
Would you like to can we do a continuance?
Well, if
I think if you
if
talk...
the owner and the contractor, I think they were hoping that they could talk a little bit about how they were going to match, and maybe from that we can gather what additional documentation would need to be
Okay.
submitted. If
So he,
Yes.
okay.
Hello?
Good afternoon. I'm Charles Jorge, owner of the property. I did meet with the gentleman with CDK today, and I think the issue that we're missing was that the muntins are not matching up. I think that's the issue that in the last report, I see that it was 1 inch and 3/8, and we're looking for something that's matching closer, thinner to what's on the property correctly right now.
The muntins and then the trim around the windows, the brick molds, the profile of that, in the drawings that was submitted did not look to be a close match for the remaining historic windows that are on the structure.
Was it the framing itself that you were looking at that wasn't matching, or the window itself, how the window is built?
The frame
together?
surrounding the window.
Because I have a sample of the window here. I don't know if you want to see that, to take a look at it closer, or do you want me to submit something in writing? Because he did give me a sample of what the exact window is going to look like with the framing and everything, which is from the manufacturer, Semco. The only thing that he has not been able to address at this point is the muntins, that he's having a lot of difficulty with that manufacturer getting to that smaller muntin that's on the windows right now. But I think the proposal that's on the table is actually to replace all the windows, not just the ones that were the vinyl ones. I think that's the last proposal that we submitted for the entire property, which was to replace all windows, including the historic ones, to have them all match.
Well, it sounds to me that there's two different issues. One is the muntins, and the other is the actual trim, the wood trim that is used to hold the windows in, however you want to describe
Right.
it. That's not part of the window itself. It's the way the window is trimmed out. Is that correct?
The brick mold.
The brick mold, or however, I think there's some confusion there.
Okay, that could be, well, I'm not an expert on these windows, so
Right.
some of this terminology is not part of my
understand.
everyday vernacular.
But you see the
So-
difference, correct? You see the difference between the historic and what you replaced it with, correct?
Oh, of course, yeah, I'm not denying the fact of that. I'm saying what we're talking about now is the proposed windows that are historic matching windows that are going to go in, I think that is not the sample of what's going in. That's the vinyl window that was replaced.
Right.
Most of them replaced by the previous
Right.
owner, and code enforcement did not enforce the previous owner. Obviously, I was not understanding really how the guidelines of the Historic Society Commission worked from those windows. When I purchased the building, had multiple windows already done. This was a dilapidated, rundown building that was purchased in foreclosure from a family that lost the whole entire city block, basically 4 or 5 buildings all at the same time. So I'm coming in now, after code enforcement posted that, to correct that. So those windows were not put in, but the new ones, we were understanding that the only difference was the muntins that were the only difference that we had, and he has not been able to get me documentation for that at this point to get that corrected from the manufacturer. That's
So
what
you're
we're missing.
correct. The muntins do not match up, but we're also talking about the trim around the windows, and we would need documentation saying that with the measurements, and we need to know what those measurements are on the historic windows to know what they will then be on the new windows.
Okay, so you're asking for
We
the
need something to
measurements off the
measure whenever
historic
we come
windows
back.
themselves, and then whatever the proposal is at the point, the vendor did not give that to me at this point in time.
There's two different, I don't want it to be confused in that there's, part of this can be given to you by the window manufacturer, but the other part is the part that the exact way that the contractor would install the windows and the width of the wood around the windows that doesn't come with the window.
Right.
The brick mold or the trim is field applied.
And
Doesn't come from the factory.
I think that there's the concern is coming from that there's so many windows here that were smaller than the opening and so forth, that we're just wanting to ensure that the new windows are the correct size and the same size as the historic window. For me, I know that it's very small details. I have to rely on staff
Right.
to look at these small details, and I have to, so on that, I would say, that staff doesn't feel like that they have received enough information.
Okay, well, I don't, that is information that we did not discuss with him this morning. I think he was under the impression that the muntins were the only thing that was not correctly addressed at this point, so.
I also want to just note that we have not been reviewing this with the understanding that you were intending to replace the historic windows. We were under the understanding that you were only replacing the windows that had previously been replaced. If you're proposing to replace historic windows, we will need a lot more information on their condition before that's approved, because right now we don't have anything
Can
on.
only be replaced if they're deteriorated.
They're deteriorated 50% or more beyond the point of repair. So we can work with you after the
Okay.
meeting about that.
All right, then that's something we'll have to address, and that was, I think that was something that the contractor was proposing to do, because if you can't match the muntins right now of the old windows with the new windows and everything else fits, that would be, and there are some that are very dilapidated also that would need some repair. They don't function. Some of the ones in the front of the building that are not functioning today, and it was an effort to try to correct all those, keeping in context the historical aspect, but also make them functional for the tenants that can't open them or you can't use them at all. So that's where we
We
are.
appreciate that. I think for today, we don't have enough information to move forward for the reasons that staff has brought up and other commissioners, so this will probably need to be continued. Should we talk about the date?
It probably makes the most sense to continue it to the April meeting.
Okay.
We would need, for the March meeting, we
Is
would need...
let me ask you a question. If we are able to address these issues correctly and we're not going to do anything with the historic windows and we'll be in contact with you or with Angela, who I've dealt with before, is it going to require another continuation for me to come again? Because I'd like to come, but I had to fly from Miami for this meeting because I don't live in Oklahoma City any longer, and Sheila is our manager. So if we can continue this to the point that if we address this with you directly and it's satisfactory, the staff can give a report and the commission offline can approve it, that would be great, so I don't have to come again from Miami.
Right.
Well, with window replacements have to be approved by the commission, so it would have to come back to the meeting. Hopefully, we can get to a point where we have all the adequate documentation that we need, that you don't need to be here, and that you've got a staff recommendation for approval.
Okay.
And we can address it in that way.
Okay, perfect then.
Is there a motion?
I feel confident when staff, as far as windows goes, when they make a recommendation for approval, so I think that if you all work with Katie and to the degree that she
Okay.
feels like she's got that sufficient and she can tell you, yes, I'm going
Okay,
to write a
perfect.
report that says I approve, then I think you're almost there.
Okay, that sounds great. Do you require me to sign in here too, since I spoke?
Yes, please.
Okay, all right.
Okay, is there a motion for
So to the April meeting, what's the date, Katie? So I move to continue HPCA 14-00144 to the April 1st meeting.
Second.
so quiet now?
Second.
Moved by Jennifer Clemens, second by Jennifer Bourne. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, items continued to
All
April.
right, thank you. Good afternoon.
Welcome to Oklahoma City.
HPCA 14-204 at 2120 Northwest 26th Street, Shepherd, Ward 2, consideration and possible action on application of Caroline Warner for a certificate of appropriateness to number 3, install light fixture required. This was continued at a previous meeting, and they are out of continuances. The applicant has not had the time or the resources to address the concerns that were raised about the light fixture, so they're fine with this being denied, and they'll come back to us for what hopefully will be an administrative approval
Oh, it's now.
of the light fixture.
Okay.
So then is with prejudice the appropriate motion then?
Yes, I think so, because they'll come back with something different.
Even though
than
it's still
what this
regarding
is.
a light on the side of the house?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'd move to deny HPCA 14-00204, item 3 with prejudice, with the specific findings that the proposed work will have an adverse effect on the historic character of the district and is not in compliance with the relevant sections as listed in the staff report.
Second.
Okay, it's moved by Jeffrey Parks and seconded by Ann Zachrich. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, denied with prejudice. Next item.
HPCA 14-00211 at 3120 North Harvey Parkway, Edgemere Park, Ward 2, consideration and possible action on application of Robert and Charlotte Mitchell by Greg Bristow of Red Eagle Construction for certificate of appropriateness to 1, construct garage elective, and 2, extend driveway elective. The Commission has heard this application previously. They made several revisions to the design and also provided some additional drawings illustrating the relationship between the proposed garage and the house.
Okay, then the staff has recommended approval with conditions. Okay. Welcome back.
Hi, I'm David Reynolds. Greg's out sick today. We took everything he said to heart, and we decreased the mass, we lowered the ridge, we took the Dutch hips off, we changed the front gable, we centered 2 windows on the west wall, second story, and I think we accomplished everything the board wanted to do.
I have one question for you, if you wouldn't mind. I'm looking at pages 4 and 5 of 33 in the packet. Do you have a copy?
I'm right there, yes ma'am.
Could you tell me which dormer you're proposing? They're different dormers.
Actually, the roof lines are different completely.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
The doors are,
So which one, I'm assuming this is the one?
That's correct. The other
This
is
one.
the initially proposed.
Okay, thank you.
what's that? What Angela said?
So this was the initial proposal, that's no longer, and now this is what they're proposing
Or
here.
this, the one that's on these renderings?
That's new, and the new perspectives
That's current.
that
Okay,
Ms. Bourne asked for.
okay. All right, any comments, questions, or motions?
I make a motion to approve HPCA 14-0021 with the conditions listed in the staff recommendations, and including with the specific findings and conditions.
And Were you okay with the conditions listed in the staff report? Did you see those?
Yes, I think the primary one was to get a new site plan done to better define the drive in the back.
Yes,
Is that primarily it?
yes, that and ensuring that the concrete matches the aged color and appearance of surrounding existing historic concrete.
Sure. Quick question. The owners asked, they had put in the drive that's next to the house now and has a brick border, and they didn't want to continue the brick border in the backyard past the house.
They did not want to?
Excuse me?
They did not want to. So just
Did not want to, just because, as you know, how brick holds up on the ground.
Well, I think that's what we would prefer.
Yeah, I think the guidelines would encourage not using brick where there hasn't been brick historically. So, yeah, I don't think that's an issue.
Not a problem?
No.
Okay.
Okay, any
Great.
questions or a second?
So then I would second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved by Joe Meacham and seconded by Jeffrey Parks. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved with conditions.
Thank you all very much.
HPCA 14-00214 at 403 Northwest 19th, Heritage Hills, Ward 6. Consideration and possible action on application of Laverna Williams by Catherine Montgomery, AIA of Preservation and Design Studio, for certificate of appropriateness to 3, replace side deck with new deck and screen porch elective, and 4, reconfigure front porch and walk elective.
Hi, I'm Catherine Montgomery with the Preservation and Design Studio. We noticed that the quality of printing for most of the drawings that we submitted was really light and hard to see what was really there. So we've actually prepared some sketches that hopefully will replace the visuals that you need to look at.
Okay, while they're passing those out, any questions or comments? Yeah, let's see, staff's recommendments. Staff's recommending continuing. 3 and 4, both of them. Okay.
Catherine, how far is the roof set back on the side from the front of the house? It looks like it's set back. We provided 2 proposals, a preferred proposal and an option. The preferred proposal is in alignment with the front edge of the deck, which is set back about 6 inches or a half a foot from the front. And then the option is even with, comes out to the south side of the steps that lead to that side door, so that gives a covered entrance. Okay, I see that the drawings reflect both of those options.
Okay.
Katie, do you have anything to add?
Not really.
Okay.
It's, I think Catherine can address the changes from the last time that you saw it.
The last time we stood before you about 2 months ago, I think it was that. What we did, based on the comments that we got from the commission, originally, well, first of all, the front sidewalk and the back deck were approved. So now we're just before you for the 2/3 remaining items, which have to do with the east side deck and its covering, and then the front awning and the stoop. So what we did, based on the comments that we received, was regarding the front entrance awning. We had proposed that it go from 2.5 feet to 5 feet, so that when the front door, which is 4 feet wide, when the screen door opens, that it would be covered and a person would still be able to stand on the step without having to run the risk of falling off the step. We revised that based on the conversation that was here. We reinterpreted the columns to make them very simple. You can kind of see that the existing awning is sagging, so something needs to be done to it to secure it in place anyway. So what we're proposing is to increase the depth of that to 4 feet instead of 5. At least that way it keeps the storm door covered when it opens. And we're still looking for the front stoop to be 5 feet so that a person can step out of the way of the screen door or the storm door when it opens. Then on the side, we had originally wanted a screened-in porch. We've removed the screens from the east side. The screens were granted for the back. So we removed the screens from the east side, and this, the reduction in the front of the porch, or the deck, right now it projects out about 5 feet. We're proposing that the front edge of the east deck just be set inside, just behind the front wall, which is about the same as the outline for the remnant of the concrete patio, or whatever you want to call it, that the deck currently covers. So we stepped that back, and then we removed this. We're no longer asking for screens for that. And then we provided 2 options. One was to cover the entire side porch, or as you can see, the back portion of the side porch up to the door that has steps from the driveway. You know, we're very deliberate when we turn these things in. We think about them a lot, and we had written up the items in our application in a specific way, partly to reflect the owner's wishes, but also partly to kind of put things in an order of priority. And I think, obviously, the first thing is that the existing deck covers a historic or original or previous side porch. And so we definitely want to go back with that porch. And we've reduced the size because we recognize that the front 5 feet, that did not have a side porch, and there's no concrete slab underneath that part that projects forward. So we did that, but the deck as it is, the floor material and the side material are deteriorating, and something needs to be done. So, you know, we could replace board by board and call it ordinary maintenance and repair, but we'd really prefer to have it all done at the same time. Then, of course, because there's such a problem with this particular low spot in the block where the birds like to congregate, and my client doesn't like to sit out on the porch and have them, you know, bless her. So, so that's the primary reason for having some kind of cover on that east side porch.
Any questions? So the front canopy, while they're thinking about it, goes from, excuse me, like a 2 foot with the brackets to 5 feet with columns and a rail, correct?
Right now it's about 2.5 feet. Originally we wanted it to be 5, but we resubmitted a new design making it 4.
4, so it's back to 4.
So it's basically 1.5 feet. And I think if you look on page, we kind of changed up the way we drew the drawings so that you could directly compare things.
Page 15. I think.
Yeah, side by side on page 15 of 39. You can see, well,
Okay.
you can't see it very well because the drawing didn't print very well, but
Okay, it's different.
that kind of gives you the existing versus the proposed.
Catherine, if it were 5 feet, then that's when you're thinking it would need more bracing and would need maybe columns. And this only needs the bracing rather than a column to support it?
No, currently it has the brackets, and you can see by the drawing that the brackets come to about the midpoint of the existing depth of the awning, and the awning is kind of sagging a little bit, so something needs to be done. So what we've proposed is putting a column and then putting the bracket on the column.
On the column, right.
I still feel like that we're taking off a historic porch. The bottom, I think, I can understand having the porch, the floor itself extended because it looks very short to the 5 feet. But I think that changing the historic porch remains an issue with the guidelines. I think we understand that it's in sagging. I think that that's the hesitation here, is that we just feel like that the guidelines, that we would be taking off a historic porch cover.
And adding posts where posts
Right.
aren't. Yeah.
I would agree with that. I would support that floor being extended to the 5-foot mark, but I don't see how we can approve that new porch cover or columns. There have been previous cases where porch roofs are sagging, and additional columns have been approved to provide support to those porch roofs.
Any comment on that, Katie? Can't remember anything.
I wouldn't doubt that that probably has been done in the past, so that's something we can look into. I would say this isn't just adding columns to support the existing roof, it's also making the existing roof larger and extending it. And I don't know if those are cases where there was already a true porch with columns, and I don't know, that's something we'd have to look into, but I haven't researched that, so I don't have a...
Right, I mean, the one that comes to my mind was more of an airplane bungalow that already had an existing porch. There were sort of pedestals along the porch. Some of them had columns, some of them did not. It was unclear whether or not the ones that did not, in fact, had a column ever, but it looked like there might have been a column there. And I seem to recall a case, and maybe y'all can look it up for future, but that we added a column because it felt like one might have been there, and it was a long span. But we didn't take off the existing porch, as I remember, and replace the porch itself. But my memory is sometimes a little vague. So.
No, that's true. I mean, it was a deeper porch roof. As you know, lots of those porches had long spans, and often that center one, or there would be one in the middle that didn't have a column, and a column was placed on it. I just put that forward to say that if the issue is columns alone, then, there's precedence for columns being used to help support something that's sagging.
Okay.
On the side porch itself, does anybody, I understand that you've moved it back. Any more comments on, is moving it back going to make it fit the guidelines?
I think moving it back, and then the option that has the awning just over the door that's set back from the front line of the house makes it not appear so prominent a feature. The drawing, the option that has it set back and then the awning over the entire side porch, I think is a bit much.
So would that be moving the entry or the beginning of the roof to the 12 feet back from the front? Is that the drawing on page 11? Catherine, is that your option 2? Is option 2 moving the beginning of the roof over the east side to the north side of the door?
Option 2 is actually illustrated on page 30, in addition to the 3D rendering. The house itself didn't even reproduce on the set that I have, so I don't know if you have a similar drawing or not. Yeah, it didn't. Because there should have been an elevation behind there. There was when we sent it in. Yeah, I can't even, it's the same, yeah. I can't even see it here. No, that's okay. I know what it looks like. Thank you.
Yeah, so from my opinion, the porch itself, I think your proposed location, sort of in line or just behind the front of the house, I think that's fine. I have no issue with that. The covering, I definitely don't care for it up at the front of the house. I'm even a little not so sure I like the covering there at all, just because it is still fairly visible from the street. That's putting a pretty prominent thing on the side of the house that's visible. Sounded like some other commissioners were okay with that. But.
Well, the guidelines don't actually prohibit that. And I was just curious if any of the commissioners had had an opportunity to go by the house, because I think, it's an interior lot, it's not a corner lot, it's really set back, and it's narrow. You drive by it and you don't even notice it. So
I see it on your really nice rendering there.
Isn't that beautiful? I agree with Catherine. It is an interior lot, and if you put the covering starting at the 12-foot mark back, it just doesn't stand out. It's not what you see when you look at the house.
You're saying, then 12 foot, that's right behind the fireplace.
Is that right, Catherine? Yeah, it's right behind the fireplace.
I think that's one of the things that kind of bothered me, it's the fireplace, not seeing the fireplace, interrupting the fireplace, but it's behind it. I think it does look not near as intrusive, non-architectural. Like it wasn't there originally.
I think this is a difficult one because we're back to adding to something that's not historic, so it's the struggle to get to either deny or compromise.
What would the feeling be if it was more of a temporary awning versus, say, an actual awning, permanent awning structure?
Versus like canvas or something?
Canvas awning. That's more temporary and accomplishes maybe what the owner and Catherine are talking about. Those are in historic. I know one on 16th Street that I'm thinking of on a second floor.
We allow those we allow those awnings, right?
I don't remember exactly what the guidelines say, but in general, I think the guidelines say that fabric awnings are supposed to occur over individual openings. And, I'm sure we can find exceptions to that rule. As you know, a fabric awning, the life of the fabric is usually about 5 years, so it becomes a real maintenance issue.
So you don't care for that option?
Not particularly, but I suppose that, we really prefer one of the two options that we've given, and if you're tending toward the one that has the covering behind the fireplace, I think that's perfectly acceptable. Catherine, will you remind me, I know there's a new back porch, correct? Is there an awning over that or any roof? Was that approved? As approved at the last meeting, that will get a roof and screened. So there will be porch that's enclosed? Right, that faces the back. Okay. That's enclosed, right.
And that roof does not come past the side of the house?
Correct. And in fact, if you look at page 30, the corner where the back and the side would meet doesn't have a roof over it. There's a tree there, so actually the deck is currently built around that tree, and the deck replacement would also allow that tree to continue to grow.
Is there any sort of guideline that I don't have in front of me, making changes to the side of the house, like we have the 50% rule for new windows? not in the front, but maybe in the back half? Is there something?
We have language about adding new windows, adding new doors. What we looked at for this was the guidelines for landscape and landscape elements, which talks about things like decks, and says that landscape features should be restrained on the fronts of buildings to allow viewing of the public face of the property and maintain historic streetscapes. Added landscape features are more appropriate in back or side yards. And then all of the language about decks really talks about back decks being on the back of a structure. I will say that staff felt like, as several commissioners had said, the deck in and of itself was one thing. Putting a permanent roof over it took it to kind of a whole nother level of
Screen porch is not a
permanency.
deck.
Yeah.
Porch is not a deck.
New, just as far as reference, new windows can be, I think, in the back 30%.
30%.
And doors also in the back 30%? Back 40%, something like that, for new door openings. I know windows is 30.
To me, this kind of falls there. It's not a window or door.
If you look on page 4 of 8 of the staff report, it quotes section 4.3 regarding additions, which I'm assuming that staff must have looked at this as an addition as well. And it says that they would be constructed, that additions could be planned so that they're on the back or a non-character defining elevation, preferably not visible from the public right-of-way. Character defining features of the buildings should not be radically changed, obscured, damaged, or destroyed by an addition. I think certainly we've seen many cases come before the commission where entire back facades are enclosed by additions and doors are removed and walls are blown out. I think that this is a really modest and unobtrusive, very compatibly designed, of course, solution to a real problem that the property has, and as well as the front. I think, there's some question. We have no real evidence of what was an original front roof or not. Certainly, the close-up photographs that staff has provided have shown that there have been some kinds of modifications and that there are some issues on the sides. So, as to whether it's really historic or not, we have no proof one way or the other. And what we do know that there was a particular owner at a particular time that did a lot of modifications to the building. So I don't think we're really replacing an original awning. I think all of the changes are very modest and just really address the livability of the property, which, as you know, at the beginning of the guidelines and standards, the whole point is to keep the properties in good repair, to be able to respond to, modern living and try to keep them as close to original as we know. And I think that the changes are very modest, and
I'm going to say I think everybody totally agrees with you, Catherine. I just think that myself, I'm uncomfortable with the guidelines. I mean, with the way that it reads with the guidelines. I don't think anybody here does. I think it is a great design. I can understand your reasons for the porch, but I just feel like that's not really what we're considering here. Personally, I just feel like that it's a difficult decision on as far as it does not appear to follow the guidelines, and staff has also recommended that has the same opinion.
I wanted to clarify about the canopy that we were less concerned with retention of the canopy itself as a historic feature and more so with the fact that the Sanborn maps show that there never was a porch. So felt like adding a larger and more substantial porch where, if the Sanborn maps are accurate, there never was one, was more of a concern than the actual preservation of the canopy, because I wouldn't be surprised if that's not original to the structure.
I think in the fact that there's going to be an enclosed back porch, I don't see a unique circumstance that would sway me to approve another porch area that has a roof over it. We've already got the one in the back, so this is just an additional one. So I'm hearing both sides of this, and I think I'm leaning toward no roof.
I agree. I mean, I would go to approve that, that the side porch could be completely, redone as is. Because we understand that's a maintenance problem, and it was already there. So, I mean, that's my thought.
Well, I'd like to say that I have absolutely no problem with anything that is on this drawing. I think the existing front porch stoop area looks awkward. It looks like it was wrong. I don't think it was anything to do with the original part. I don't have any history of that. And I have no problem with anything that's on this particular drawing.
Which one are you
I
looking
really
at?
don't. The one that we were just handed.
There's two versions.
Right.
You're talking
The
about
one on the
front,
first page.
front canopy only, or the side?
I like the very first one. I have no problem with the roof
Side?
being on the entire side of it myself. When was this house built?
1916.
I mean, this is not a historic house to me. I mean,
16.
16?
Oh, it sounded like 60, yes it did, but it was 15.
16?
No, 1960. Yeah, that's what I said.
1960.
You gotta wait till you're 100.
You're trying to fool me. So that's not it.
1-6.
1-6. Wow. So that's my opinion. I have no trouble with this.
Well, somebody want to test a motion here?
I make a motion to deny, this right here, HPCA 14-00214, items 3 and 4, with the specific findings noted by staff. Is that correct?
That is, they do have another continuance, and there may be some modifications to it. I don't know that we want to deny the whole thing outright if there's some changes that
I would
everyone
withdraw
can
that
agree
if
to.
the applicant wants to continue the item.
I don't see. Well, I would second it. I don't see how it would be different. She's pretty strong on what their client wants and what they want. We're pretty strong on what the guidelines say and how we are interpreting them. I agree with your denial.
Although I haven't heard any specific citations for the guidelines. I've gone through the staff report. I've made notations for where I feel that, in my opinion, that the guidelines are being met. There is directive language and, what's the other one? Directive and permissive language in the guidelines, and all of the sections that we've addressed are permissive. They're not directive. They're using words like should or preferred as opposed to have to be.
Well, can you cite something like, for instance, to me, it kind of gets down to, is it a character-defining elevation or not?
I mean, I believe that without additional information that the cover over the front porch would be a characteristic, without, additional evidence. So I feel like that unless we know that the porch roof looks like something else, that we would have to go with the fact that this is the original, or it's, like Katie says, it doesn't show up on the map, on the Sanborn maps, but, so I feel like I just don't see how that we can change that. And the side of it, I think, the side elevation, again, I think that, I feel like that we are adding to a non-historic part. I understand all of your other concerns and everything, but I think that I just can't see a place for.
What I was referring to was the new additions chapter that says that new additions must be planned to the back of the property or on a non-character-defining elevation, preferably not visible from the public right-of-way. So are you saying that the side
I just feel like
elevation is a character-defining elevation?
I think it is a character-defining in that you can see it.
It is visible. Okay.
I mean, additions, I think,
give reasons.
belong behind the house, which would be behind, in my opinion, either extending from the side elevation or set back from the side elevation. That would be my interpretation.
And the second part is then character-defining features of building should not be changed.
I think putting a roof over the windows in the rear, that we are covering character-defining features, which would be the windows on the side elevation.
So, motion,
my one other thing I wanted to say is that it sounded like some people were amenable to approving the deck with no cover.
I would
So I
put
don't
that
know
in
if that
there as a condition that the existing deck on the side could be completely removed and redone as long as it is similar, or maybe, I don't know.
Well, I think it needs to be set back 5 inches from the front wall, which is on page 2 of 8, the staff report, roughly matching the footprint of the remaining concrete, because right now it's far forward from the front wall.
Okay.
No, our proposal is to make it 5 inches behind the front.
Okay.
Right, existing,
Right.
it's 5
Right.
feet in front of it, right.
Right.
I mean, we've drawn the deck so that it could be approved independently of anything else. That was the way we wrote up our items in the application, and that definitely needs to be accomplished. So the way we've drawn it is the way we intend for it to be constructed. We've got construction drawings finished, and that's exactly what we're going to have it look like, is what we've drawn. And in addition to that, the stoop being modified to 5 feet, I was hearing that there were no objections to that. So I mean...
I would go with those conditions. So the first condition would be that the new deck on the east side could be replaced and would be built according to the design, which is it would start 5 inches behind the front of the front facade. That would be one. 2 would be that the stoop, the porch of the stoop could be extended to the 5 feet as indicated in the drawing submitted.
so it's,
Another condition.
is that partial, how does that work? Deny with some approval?
With conditions, or no?
Approval with conditions.
Okay, you have to go the reverse way here.
Item 3.
Right. It's a mixture.
To approve item 3, replace side deck with new deck and screened porch.
With no roof.
With no roof.
Roof or column.
But that's not even on here anyway, so. So it's just replace side deck with new deck and screened porch. So if that's your motion, that would be to approve.
We're not
item number 3.
moving to approve the screened-in porch.
So you would be approving item 3 with the condition that the screened-in porch or any porch be constructed, that it just be the deck.
Just the deck.
Just the deck. So that would be your
Okay,
condition.
that would, okay.
Yeah, approve
approve
item 3 with the
number 3.
condition that the roof and screens not be, well, and the screens aren't even on there anymore, so with the condition that...
Okay. Would you like me to start over? I would like to approve HPCA 1400214, item 3, to replace the side deck with a new deck only, with the condition that the submitted roof and columns not be allowed.
And 4?
And 4 would be to approve reconfigure the front porch, the floor only, to extend to 5 feet as shown in the drawings, but to the canopy to remain or to be repaired as is.
Second.
Okay, it's moved by Joe Meacham, second by Jennifer Bourne. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, did you approve the conditions? Catherine, do you accept
Catherine
the
needs to-
conditions? or-
Let me ask my client.
That's right, that's true. I'm trying to move on. So, sorry.
There was some discussion about a canvas cover over the porch. Is that, how would Is that something that would be possible? And how would you prefer us to pursue that?
Could be amendment.
I believe we can generally administratively approve canopies, but I think you're right that the guidelines talk about canopies being limited to window openings.
It's not on 16th Street.
If the commission is comfortable with the idea of a canvas awning, we could include the condition that that be submitted to staff, that, revised documentation of that be submitted.
I think we need to see that guideline.
But I think-
If it's only allowed over window openings,
Yeah.
or we need to see that.
So that might be a,
Well, there is a home on 16th Street that has the awning on the entire side of the house.
I think either we would need to continue item 3, and that's a revision to item 3, or it would need to be a separate, if you wanted to move forward now with 3 approved, it would be a new application. Sorry, I'm trying to
You can amend
come
it.
up with an easier way to do that.
You can amend it. There's no way to amend.
Well, we do administrative amendments, but those are usually just small changes to the already approved work, not adding completely new items. And administrative amendments also have to meet the guidelines. So if our guideline for canopies says that they have to be limited to over each opening, then that goes beyond what we would
You
generally
had
do.
mentioned that we have a continuance. If we could go forward with the approval of the items as articulated, and then have a continuance regarding a cover for the east one, intending to submit to you a fabric canopy or a fabric awning, can we do that and take a continuance for that?
Sounds good to me. Would that work? Legal?
Well, we could
Continue the...
to approve the deck with a continuance on the
Covering.
covering.
Well,
Is it
so
all
on
in
the agenda, it says replace side deck with new deck and screened porch as item 3. Is that where the canopy is, or is it in item 4, reconfigure front porch and walk?
It's the first one.
3.
It's part of the
Because it is
screen.
a
Rita, you know we enjoy these discussions, right?
It's part of the screen porch.
I would have split those items into A and B if they had been in there like that, and suggest that maybe the porch, that the floor would be an A and the covering would be a B. At least then that way it's consistent with the way the staff report has been written and the way the notifications have gone out.
So the canopy that you're talking about is screened porch, as it appears on the agenda.
Correct. As it's been modified because the screened porch was,
So we continue the screen porch.
That was taken off anyway, right? Screens are off.
Well, as written, we're continuing the screen porch.
Okay, but
What would you like? You want to approve one? Do we want to approve item 4 with a condition and then continue? I don't know how, I'm not sure.
Ms. Friddle, do we have an opportunity at this time for Catherine to request the addition of additional items to her application prior to its closure, so that we can notice again next month for this new item?
Yep, how about we renotice with the item to install a canopy over the porch? We'll approve it with the conditions that have already been stated, and then we'll come back with the canopy. Because the guideline does say that canopies shall not be continuous across a facade. So that's something that we would certainly not do at an administrative level, but that could come
Okay, so
back.
how do we vote on this thing?
So I think the motion as made, as stands is fine, and then we'll add that item and come back and renotice for it.
So Paula, what do you have as the motion? Just to be sure.
Okay, to approve with conditions, item 3, replace side deck with new deck only, with the condition that the submitted roof and columns are not allowed. And item 4, to reconfigure the floor only to 5 feet, but the canopy will remain or be repaired.
Okay, then when
That's
do we,
perfectly fine. So if there is from the floor a request for an additional item, or even if there wasn't here, you could amend the rest of the application with staff, have it renoticed, and have it heard at the next meeting, except for there's not anything to continue. There's action on everything, isn't there? So there's not a new thing. You'd have to continue the whole thing in order to...
We're actually
You'd have to have
approving.
some item continued.
We're approving all items that are currently on the application, and she is requesting that we add a new item that'll be noticed for April, since we've passed the deadline for March. Is that accurate?
So we're done then with everything
We're done
that's
with
on
everything.
here? So it would be a new application, because there's not anything
A new
left.
item has been requested to be added to the application.
Application that's already had action taken on it.
Yes, ma'am.
maybe we should take a break now. So how do we do this?
I think that it would better comply with the Open Meeting Act if we continue the entire item, or at least one of the 2 items, so that when it comes back, it's part of the same application. Even though you're asking for an additional item, we don't have a reason otherwise to bring it back.
How about, we can continue item 4, because if you are only going to, if you're going to enlarge the paving in front of the front door, that's actually something I think we're comfortable administratively approving, and it was just included to be all one piece of the application. And if the front canopy is not being altered and is going to just be rebuilt to match existing, that's also an administratively approvable item. Does that make sense?
And so you're saying that leaves that item open?
So we could
or-
continue, leaves the case open, so then we could add a new item for March, say.
And continue number 4.
Yep.
Okay. Does that work?
So we're approving the deck portion of it. We're continuing number 4, and the applicant can come in and get the floor, the extension of the floor administratively approved.
And a new item would be brought back as part of the continuance of the entire application, and it would be announced that a portion of the entire request was administratively approved.
I'll trust y'all on that.
I'm trusting her.
I'll be calling Rita in the morning.
Okay.
I hope everybody appreciates how we follow the procedures here.
Okay.
Correct procedure.
We're trying.
Okay, so what's the most, you want to state it again, just real quick?
So the motion is recorded to approve item 3 and then to continue item 4 to the March 4th meeting.
Second.
Can you accept that? Victoria, second?
Can we do April, please?
Oh, sure.
Wait, hold on. We do need to do that. Paula is correct. Because the motion on the floor
Was to-
with Commissioners Meacham and Bourne was to approve items 3 and 4.
Okay.
So that needs to be
I
withdrawn.
need to withdraw my previous motion.
I withdraw the whole. Okay, so now we need a new motion that approves 3 and continues 4 separately.
Second.
3 and then 4.
Joe, you going to do that?
Okay, yes, I move to approve HPCA 140021 403 Northwest 19th, item 3, to replace the deck only with a new deck.
With the condition that
With the
The porch
condition
not be
that the porch is located as shown on the, or the new deck is shown, as shown on the drawings with a 5-inch setback from the front elevation.
Yes.
And that the roof and columns are not approved.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, been moved by Joe Meacham, second by Neela Clements. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that is approved.
I make a motion to continue HPCA 14-00214, item 4, to the
April 1.
April 1st meeting.
Second. It's been moved by Joe Meacham, second by Ann Zachowitz. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, continued.
Thank you.
I think we all learned something here. Maybe. So,
HPCA 14-00217 at 2201 Northwest 27th Street, Shepherd, Ward 2. Consideration and possible action on application of Frazier Bond Revocable Trust by William Collins III of Collins Law Firm for a certificate of appropriateness to 1, replace and reconfigure 2 garage doors to a single garage door elective, 2, replace and alter slope of driveway elective, 3, replace concrete steps at driveway elective, and 4, replace fence elective.
Good afternoon, members of the commission. I'm William F. Collins III, here on behalf of Jay Bond, and Mr. Bond is in the chambers with me. We're here on 4 separate items. Apparently, there's no issue with regards to the fence or the slope of the driveway or replacing steps. So if the commission doesn't have any issue with those, I'll address my comments to the garage door. Right now, there's an existing twin doors separated by a column, and the main reason for filing this application was to replace those 2 single-wide doors with a double-wide. And the reason for that is because Mrs. Bond has a tendency to scrape the center post. As a matter of fact, it's been scraped at least once since I filed this application. So that's why we're here. We've agreed to replace the existing metal doors with wood. That's not reflected in your staff report, but I've already met with Ms. Friddle, and we've agreed to do that.
Do you have that sheet?
Yeah, we've
the wood
received
doors?
documentation in between the staff reports going out of
Yeah, after I reviewed the staff
appropriate wood door.
report, we've agreed to do that. The new door will look exactly like the existing doors. Will be the framed panels, same color, which will match the house, and pretty close to matching the fence that's going to be installed also. So if you have any questions.
it's a steel door, is that right? That's permissible in Shepherd?
It's a wood door. They revised a wood door.
Okay.
This house is on a corner lot, right? And the garage faces the side street?
Pardon me?
This is
Yes.
a corner lot and the garage faces the side street, is that right?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, sir.
This property sits on a corner, right? The corner of 27th and Barnes, right?
Northwest corner, 27th and Barnes.
So the garage sits very close to the street, to Barnes Avenue, right?
It appears to be pretty close to the street, yes, sir. Matter of fact, I don't know what the setbacks are in the old Shepherd neighborhood, but it's pretty close to the setback, I would imagine. Most of the streets are 50 feet right of way, 26 feet of paving, and I believe there's, what is it, slightly over 12 feet of well, that's not right. I think there's, we gave Ms. Friddle a diagram showing the length of the driveway, and I don't have those notes in front of me.
Yeah, no, you had very specific documentation about some
Yes,
of those dimensions. Yeah.
all that documentation's been submitted.
Right.
But there's only so much room to work with, but that line has been established ever since this property was built.
On 1 garage door versus 2, speaking from my own home, which may have had 2 garage doors at some point, but it does have 1 now. And even though the garages are smaller, and this one would be of the smaller variety, that if you had 2 garage doors, you'd have to pretty much go straight in. If it's 1 garage door, you can kind of angle them slightly so you can get out of the car also. So I'm heartily in support of the 1-car garage.
I agree. In this situation, because the garage is so small, even for new garages, we give permission for a single door.
But I would say generally though, if this were a new application, given a garage so prominently located In fact, the house immediately to the north of this does have a new garage, and it has 2 single doors. The preference
It's
would be
bigger.
for, it is bigger, and I think it's a definite
In fact, it's
consideration.
bigger than our current, I'm going to guess that new one is actually bigger than our current guidelines.
So my point is that our typical default position is for 2 single doors, particularly in such a prominent location.
I agree. I would just say there's a unique circumstance in that the width of the garage is so small.
But I know that you can get garage door designs to have it look like it's 2, but it's 1.
I was talking with Mr. Bond about that. I don't know if that's
I'd be willing to
possible, and
see it.
I'm not sure how attractive it would be. You know,
Well,
we've-
rather than one big large garage door, you could fake it. Make it
I think
look
they
like
look pretty
2.
fake, though, usually, yeah.
There was one in
Last
Crown,
resort, Jennifer.
there was one in
No,
Crown Heights, it
not.
looked
One
very
with the-
fake when you see
But a
it.
big garage door, I think, would be worse.
But I'm sorry.
One big one is worse, in my opinion, to look at. Because if I'm an observer, if I'm looking on the street, it has the illusion of it being 2 rather than this big, huge garage door. If we're concerned that it has this priority and that you're able to see it, and it has this visibility, I'd think that that would be something to look at.
I wouldn't prefer that, but somebody else does.
No, I think the garage is so small, you know, there are big garage doors. This is a smaller garage. And yes, it's a double door that I would prefer not to have, but I understand the reasoning for the double door. I also understand the reasoning, the short distance from the street to the garage itself, and maneuvering and those sorts of issues that come along with it. I would prefer it not to be fake, especially, again, since it is close to the street, those details are very apparent when you're up close like that.
But isn't there a big, I mean, I thought we had a different case that it was a big one garage door, and it had details on it that made, of wood, that made it look like it was 2 structure, or 2 doors, and it had the center mullion, although, or center column, although it went up. I mean, I think you can try harder. I mean, that's my only, sorry. There's a lot of garage door manufacturers out there. I know that for sure. And I just think, rather than just saying, yay, we can have it as 1, I would like a continuance to hunt for something better than just one big, huge metal garage door. That's my
It's going
opinion.
to be
not
wood.
metal, it's
It is wood.
That's
It's steel. Oh, okay. Either way, it's out there. You might have to pay more for it, but there are
Katie?
options out there.
On our new garages, have we been given permission for 1 or 2? Are we consistent?
We have approved, in several locations, we've approved a single double-width garage door. Most of those have been on alley locations where you had a pretty narrow turn-in that we've kind of acknowledged is difficult to maneuver. I think we had one other one that was a street-facing, where the garage faced out onto the side street, that was very small, and we, I believe, approved a double-width, single garage door, but I'm not 100% certain on that one. I have to check that case.
I recall 2 on 20th Street that had a one-door garage door. But I can't swear to it, but I'm pretty sure.
Well, does somebody want to try a motion? See what everybody thinks.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve HPCA 1400217 at 2201 Northwest 27th. Let's see, the conditions, I'm sorry. With the specific findings noted by staff and the conditions under item 1 that the garage doors be wood.
And can you add a unique circumstance about the very small size of the garage and proximity or lack of maneuvering space?
Okay, with the unique circumstance that with the small size of the individual garage door openings, that, yeah, it's really tough. that would be the unique circumstance, the smallness of the dimension of the existing single is the reason for allowing the one car, the one
Double-wide door.
double-wide garage door.
Plus maneuverability?
What? I'm sorry?
Plus maneuver.
Plus the distance from the garage to the street makes it difficult to turn into the garage as it is.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Yeah, there's 24 feet from the garage to the street.
Been moved by Joe Meacham, second by Jeffrey Parks. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay.
All the rest of the items approved as well?
Yes.
Is that all of them?
No, I think that was,
I think
was that all of them?
she said approved.
Yes, I said approved.
Yep.
Staff approved as the staff report with the specific findings.
I thought they were
Thank you
all.
very much.
Thank you.
HPCA 14-00223 at 117 Northwest 17th Street, Heritage Hills East, Ward 6. Consideration and possible action on application of Whitson Gerardo Rodriguez Carrillo by Madeline Blossom for certificate of appropriateness to 1, replace windows in brick portion of structure required, and 2, replace windows inside portion of structure required.
Okay. Is the applicant present? No. Okay. Any questions, comments? Staff recommended continuance, right? Yep. Items 1 and both.
Betty,
items.
have they submitted any additional information?
I don't believe we've received anything else since the staff report went out on this one. Is that
We
correct?
have not received anything else. They are working towards new documentation, but they have no complete documentation at this time.
We did get a comment from the president of Heritage Hills East. Maybe we should continue it then. They're not here.
I move to continue HPCA 14-00223 to the
April 1st.
April 1st meeting.
Second.
Been moved by Joe Meacham and second by Neela Craig Clements. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item is continued. Next item.
HPCA 14-00225 at 2700 North Robinson, Jefferson Park, Ward 2. Consideration and possible action on application of JFH Properties LLC by Lyle Nelson of Elias Brooks Brown and Nelson PC for certificate of appropriateness to 1, replace windows required, and 2, replace doors required. We have, since the staff report went out, communicated with the applicant. One of the issues noted in the staff report is that the proposed replacement windows are 1/1, and photos from the county assessor show that the windows were previously 5/1, and they have indicated that they don't intend to propose 5/1 windows, but I'll let them address any questions.
All right. The applicant.
Good afternoon, Commission. I'm Faye Haney. I'm the owner of the property. The reason that we are proposing to put the clear lights is mainly cost prohibitive. I just have owned this property 1 year, and the renovation that was done by the previous owner, so this has kind of sideblinded me. And so I'm not really knowing what to do or anything. So anyway, the cost of the divided light windows were significantly more, like more than double. And the divided light windows are only on the back of the property, and there's only 2 of them that are remaining. So that is why I thought, and I drove around the area, and there were numerous homes with the clear pane windows. So
When you say clear pane, do you mean 1/1?
The 1/1, yeah, I don't know the terminology.
Okay. 1/1, yeah.
But the 1/1 windows, and I thought, well, this might be a more affordable solution for us to be able to do, since this wasn't exactly in our budget for this year.
So I have a question of staff, if you don't mind. It says the existing windows are 5/1. Do we know that all of the windows were 5/1?
We do not for certain. There are photos on the county assessor's website where you can see the front windows, and those were 5/1. And I believe some of the additional photos that we have of this, yep, there's on. So in the PowerPoint, you can see some remaining historic windows that have that pattern to them. The fact that windows on the front as well as much smaller windows on the back have that pattern would lead me to assume that the majority of the windows had that division. But we don't have photos of every historic window on the structure before they were removed.
So according to that research, I mean, it would seem that most of those windows were 5/1, unless you can prove otherwise with photographic evidence. And the guidelines say to go back with materials that match the historic materials, which would be 5/1.
Okay.
I have a question. Are you wanting to replace the windows?
No, that's it. I mean, I was not, this
I
was
don't
not,
understand if the previous owner did this, but what's the situation here?
So the windows were approved without a CA, and they
weren't approved.
They were
They
not approved. Right. The windows were installed without a CA, the ones that you see, the non-historic windows that you see in the photos. They then sold the property to this owner, so she inherited the property and the citation, because the citation stays with the building. And so now she's trying to clear up the citation, and the way that you do that is to come and apply retroactively for the work that's already been done.
okay, going forward, I know this is not related to this, but how do I avoid this situation in the future if, when I purchase the property, it is not, what do I look for? There will
You'll
no
need to
disclosure statements?
Research the address. You can research it online to see if there are any CAs that have been approved, and you can call staff.
Okay.
If it's in a historic district.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I knew it was historic. I just assumed, buying on good faith with the seller and the seller's realtor, that all that would have been taken care of, and so that was an expensive lesson for me.
George, you have any comments?
It should have been disclosed.
It was not. I have the disclosure statements, and it was not disclosed.
That would be another legal issue for you to investigate, in my opinion.
Okay. Thank you.
Agreed.
Legal advisor.
The lawyer has agreed with you, so I would do what she says.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So I believe this has one more continuance left. If you want to talk with staff a little more about what your options are,
I
we could
would.
continue one more time.
I would like to see if I can, if I was buying this building and doing this myself, I would make it look fabulous, because I would want it to look like that, because it's mine. And so I would like to research, see if I can find some maybe less expensive windows than the ones I've been looking at. And so I would be happy to, do I need to make an appointment, call you?
Give me a call tomorrow, and we'll,
Okay.
or email, and we'll set something up.
Okay.
And I think we could continue to the April 1 meeting to give you the biggest window of time.
That would be wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I move to continue HPCA 14-00225 to the April 1st meeting. Second.
Moved by Jennifer Bourne, second by Ann Zakowicz. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item is continued. Next item.
HPCA 14-00230 at 2205 Northwest 28th, Shepherd, Ward 2. Consideration and possible action on application of Buffalo Design LLC by Noel Klaczynski for certificate of appropriateness to 1, replace garage door elective, 3, replace existing porch cover with new design elective, and 4, replace columns of porch cover with new design elective. The applicant has asked for an additional continuance for the garage door and for the porch roof, because she has not had time to provide the additional requested documentation on those, but was hoping, based on feedback from the previous meeting, that the commission would approve replacement of the porch columns by themselves.
Why would you do the columns without the roof? Just the way it is. Just because.
I am the messenger.
Okay.
So there's really nothing new to consider, and I think she is anticipating a continuance on items 1 and 3, but was hoping for approval on item 4.
Okay. All right.
I move to continue HPCA 14-00230, items 1 and 3, to the March, to the April 1st meeting.
Second.
Moved by Neela Crank Clements, seconded by Jennifer Bourne. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, items 1 and 3 are continued. Now to the columns. Where are the columns in your design?
It would just seem to me that the columns are part of the whole design. I don't know how they could build the columns without the roof.
That's my point.
I would move to continue item 4 of HPCA 14-00230
Second. Okay, it's moved by Joe Meacham
to the April meeting.
and seconded by Ann Zackwitz. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, item 4 is continued. On to the next item. Work in progress.
HPCA 14-00237 at 828 Northwest 39th Street, Crown Heights, Ward 2. Consideration and possible action on application of Kristen and Jason Thorpe by Brian Scroggins of Outdoor Escapes LLC for certificate of appropriateness to 3 construct accessory structure with fireplace and kitchen appliances elective. The Commission reviewed this previously and asked the applicant to go back and look at making a flat roof for the structure. They've submitted drawings of what that would look like when they drew it up, and then also submitted an alternate with a hipped roof that, in consulting with staff, we all felt like actually was a better result, and got the roof lowered as had been the Commission's instruction.
Chairman, I abstained from the first one, and I'm going to...
Oh, okay, so you're abstaining, okay.
I had in my notes from the last meeting.
You are the applicant?
I'm the contractor, Brian Scroggins.
Okay, great, thank you.
2 points: to lower the roof pitch, which you've done from a 712 to a 312, and provide material spec sheets. And I think, I've gone through the application, it looks like we have all of those spec sheets now. Katie, were you confident that we have those? So it appears that the applicant has responded to our concerns.
I would agree, and I agree with staff. I like the hip roof option. I think that provides the lower roof, and it reads as, well, it's still nice, it reads as an accessory structure, and I think it fits well.
Okay, is there a motion?
So I would move to approve HPCA 14-00237, item 3, with the following condition: that the acceptable proposal is the new design with a lower hipped roof, and with the specific findings as found in Section D of the staff report.
Second.
Okay, it's moved by Jeffrey Parks, seconded by Neela Crank Clements. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, approved.
Thank you.
Okay, next item. Oh,
HPCA 10-14, HPCA 14-00241 at 433 Northwest 26th Street. We already continued that one under the continuance requests. HPCA 14-00244 at 601 Northwest 17th Street, Mesta Park, Ward 6. Consideration and possible action on application of Kyle and Jennifer Johnson for certificate of appropriateness to 1, alter backyard fence elective, 2, install basement garage door elective, 3, enclosed non-historic back door elective, 4, replace retaining wall elective, 5, alter brick walkway elective, and 6, replace back window elective.
okay. Is the applicant present? Not present. Okay, any comments, questions?
I have a question about the altering the brick walkway.
Mixed.
They're proposing to modify the walkway to straighten it. Is this a full replacement of materials, or are they just going to take some out and straighten that portion?
My understanding is that it's, just to scoot it over, and
So pull everything out?
Yeah.
So it would be replacement?
Yeah.
Not repair?
Right.
Okay.
Yes, the whole thing will move, yes.
And the applicant's not here, so on item 4, replace retaining wall, staff has recommended approval with conditions. Does the applicant know of those conditions? Do they agree?
Yes, and they had submitted several different options and kind of said, we just want to get this done, so whatever you want us to do is how we'll do it. They had them, ranked in their order of preference.
Is that something that can be administratively approved?
Technically, we can administratively approve a retaining wall on a side elevation where one previously existed because of the significant change in height. We felt more comfortable bringing that to the commission.
So you say they've given you options. Do we have those options in our packet?
I believe you do. Let me...
Page 17.
Tell me what page.
Yes.
Is it page 21 of 9?
You're starting on page 17.
Okay.
They had proposed doing a, landscape block, typical kind of wall that you see on a flower bed, or using larger retaining wall blocks and coating those to look like a concrete wall, and then also proposed going back with railroad ties, which is what was currently there.
So of the 5 options they've presented, staff recommends proposal number 3.
So it looks like those are, in staff's recommendation of approval with conditions, it looks like they're represented there, page 10 of 11. Second option, using concrete blocks coated with concrete to look like a finished concrete wall, is the approved option.
Right.
So we don't need to change anything there, right? Or add?
So, sorry.
We're good with that?
Yep.
Okay.
Did you discuss normal bricks rather than engineered retaining wall blocks?
I don't recall them actually talking about using brick. There are a number of historic concrete retaining walls surrounding the house at other properties, so that seemed like the most appropriate. There are brick retaining walls on the property, but those don't appear to be historic, and we actually talked about them, that possibly that was reuse of brick from the very large wraparound porch that went away. I don't know. We just thought that might be a possibility.
I would move to approve HPCA 1400244 items 1, 3, and 5 with the specific findings from staff. There are no conditions on these items.
Second.
Is that second down there?
Second.
Been moved by Joe Meacham and seconded by Neither Crank Clements. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, items 1, 3, and 5 are approved. Okay.
I move to approve HPCA 1400244 item 4 with the following conditions and specific findings by staff, with the condition that the second option, using concrete blocks coated with concrete to look like a finished concrete wall, is the approved option, and that the concrete match the color and finish of surrounding historic concrete.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Joe Meacham, seconded by Neither Crank Clements. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, item 4 is approved with condition. And now on to 2 and 6. No, 2 and 6.
Katie, were they in agreement perhaps that if they got those items approved, then they could go forward with that work, and they would be willing, they want to come back on the continued items with a new design for the garage door and something for the
Yes,
back window?
I assume so. If the commission had any particular comments on how to treat that garage door opening, it's kind of an unusual feature. I'd be happy to pass those along to the applicant, but I think they are happy to be able to move forward with anything they can, and they'll come back as needed.
Where's that?
Okay.
Did you have suggestions for them for the garage door?
I think it says a more simple door might be an appropriate alternative. On page 10 of 11, what is an alternative enclosure? What do you mean by that?
I mean, ideally, you would just remove that opening altogether and make it look like the historic structure, because that's certainly not a historic feature to have a garage opening cut in the side of the house like that.
What was it originally? Do they know?
I don't think they really know what the evolution of that was.
But there's the really interesting old photo that shows the big porch on page...
Where?
Page 5 of 29 in the staff report. So the garage door is underneath that bay window, and the big porch is gone.
I see.
Yeah.
And this was from an old application from a previous owner, and we've provided that application actually was to rebuild the porch, as shown in the photos, and it was approved, but it was never done. So we've provided all that documentation to the current owner, and they have a desire at some point in the future to try to rebuild that front porch. They just aren't ready to do that work now.
This wouldn't interfere with that, however, because the porch just goes...
Would they rebuild that where the garage door is?
It looks like there were windows there.
Yeah, would they rebuild that too?
Garage window. I mean, it would be the basement.
That'd be ideal.
And
have another garage.
There's another garage?
At the back of the Oh, no, it just says drive.
It's just, yeah.
I think maybe feedback is, the ideal situation is that they enclose that opening.
I agree.
To reflect what it was historically, especially in light of the fact that they have another garage.
Well,
I think there actually is not a garage.
There's a
I think there's
driveway.
just a parking area off the alley.
Was there a garage, is there a garage door on this today? I mean, no, I guess it's just that fence?
It's some kind of fencing or siding there.
Was it used for a garage at one time?
I think it was altered at some point.
Well, I can ask the applicant, tell the applicant that what those comments were, and ask for some additional information on what that structure is on the interior.
I think my comment would be to look at other areas for a garage, if possible.
Well, my comment would to not do what's proposed. I mean, that's hideous.
You mean the door?
The barn door? Yeah.
But if it is an existing garage, I think it should have a door.
Well, the historic photograph is a window.
It wasn't an historic garage.
No, it's actually under a porch. There's nothing there.
No, it wasn't under the porch. It's to the right of the porch, but the little windows. It was part of the basement. It was the basement window.
That doesn't meet the definition of a garage, does it? It's just a...
I mean, didn't they just, I mean,
I don't know.
they dug it all out.
Garage,
They dug out the original, dirt.
Terrace, rolling terrace, yes.
All
Put in a
laid
door,
out.
and they're actually parking in the basement.
I think just like if someone has an addition on their house that was put on 30 years ago, 40 years ago, however inappropriate that addition is, we wouldn't expect them to stop using it and to tear it off. If this is truly built and outfitted and being used as a garage, I think to some extent a homeowner expects to be able to continue to use it as a garage. But I think what the most appropriate enclosure of that is...
Perhaps if it had a garage door on it today, but it does not have a garage door on it today. If they were coming back and wanting to replace the existing garage door, then that would be one thing, but there's not a garage door.
If we're continuing this, would it be possible to get a little bit better photographic documentation?
Yes.
Maybe even from the inside, just so we can see what this space looks like?
Because if it's a garage, I think it should have a door, and I agree with staff that it should be simpler and something that doesn't draw so much attention to itself as what they've proposed.
Okay.
Okay, what item is that?
I move to continue HBCA 14-00244, items 2 and 6, to the April 1st meeting.
I second.
Okay, it's moved by Jennifer Bourne, second by Joe Meacham. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Items 2 and 6 are continued. Next item.
HPCA 14-00248 at 800 Northwest 39th Street, Crown Heights, Ward 2. Consideration and possible action on application of John and Lisa Penton for certificate of appropriateness to 1, replace windows elective, and 2, install pool and hot tub with adjacent paving elective, and 3, remove and reconstruct fence required.
Okay. Is the applicant present? There is.
Yes. Hi, I'm John Panton, the owner.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Staff has recommended approval of...
Katie, the way I understood item 2 was that, would it be approved for a regular building permit?
So HP is the base zoning, and there are many things in HP that are not addressed in the same way they're addressed in other residential zoning districts. So a standard residential district has numeric standardized setbacks for side yards, for front yards, for backyards. For HP, they essentially defer to what the commission approves, and the guidelines talk about maintaining historic setbacks. So in a regular old R1 district, what I have been told is that you would be required to have a 15-foot setback. But we don't have that specific language for districts that are zoned HP.
Thank you.
Okay, comments? More comments?
My only other question would be, did they discuss with you why that those setbacks are in a regular residential area?
As far as the reason that they're there?
Yes.
No, I have not been told if those are in place for some sort of structural concern, or if it's just a standard, this is the side yard that we want to be maintained. So I don't have that information.
I was actually unaware that we needed more discussion on the pool, but Katie is no stranger, so we will certainly continue our conversation about it.
And so just to clarify, the pool would, there's the long sort of flat portion in the hot tub that would extend into this view that we're looking at on the screen right now, is that right?
It'll all actually be behind a fence that you previously approved, so.
Yes, exactly. And that fence is sort of where almost where those trees are.
You see, the fence is about where there's a long 1x4, it looks like, piece of lumber. Yeah, that's about where the previous fence line was. And the pool would be 4 feet to the west. Well, actually, the pool edge would be at that fence line.
Right.
And extend 4 feet to the west of that point, and then that would leave about 4.5 to 5 feet from the house for a walkway between house and that ribbon of pool.
Yes.
As intended.
The panhandle of pool.
Yeah. It's more a water feature to eliminate noise off Chartel, quite frankly, than anything.
I gotcha. Okay. I didn't know if it's for very direct aimed lap swimming or...
I suppose one could swim a lap there. Yeah, I think it's about 50 feet in length, so. But again, it's we live in the home, it's kind of dead space, and the water feature would certainly aid in fronting Chartel right there. We've had great deliberation over the windows that we've discussed. Katie's been to the site. She even pointed out something that we all ahaed over and are adding trim to all the windows previously installed to make them even more accurately reflect the actual historic windows, none of which the windows that you see were historic. Those were added at various life points in the house. So.
Additions and that sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, there were some previous historic windows that had been replaced prior to my occupancy. Those windows are an 1980s vintage edition. So, but her input was helpful. So
that existing brick wall that's on a corner lot, that was with the home, correct? Or we approved it some different time? Because the existing east fence elevation.
Yes, so that fence was previously there and was approved to be altered. The existing fence was to be altered, but they are now proposing / have already removed the fence and want to rebuild it as it was approved, to match the design that was approved previously. Does that make sense?
Yeah. We actually ran into integrity of a retaining wall of the house on an east border, and as we were replacing that, discovered issues on of the wall under the fence, and decided that the brick didn't match when it was installed, and in an effort to make it more accurately look like the home, we're going to rebuild the fence under much higher level of integrity than it was previously. So, and your prior CA mandates stucco, which have been gerrymandered in a manner to apply it to the existing brick fence. In this way, it will be constructed identically with the home. So, on all fronts, it is an improvement. It had previous brick columns in exactly the same spot that these brick columns will go.
We don't have a previous picture of what that fence looked like before it was taken down? Oh.
I'm not sure. You may. Well, you had a rendering of what we intended, what you approved, which the previous fence was brick, and we were going to put stucco sections between the columns, and it was bricked with holes, and we intended to stucco those sections between columns. So,
right.
I know there's a drawing.
It was the same design as the drawing that you see on the page in the staff report. So the very last page of your staff report, where you see the stucco panels in between, it was brick with perforations in the brick. So there were some little gaps.
Yeah.
I believe that fence was constructed at the same time the 80s construction with those arched windows that you're looking at was done.
Yeah, we actually have photos that show a previous fence, so it was certainly not a historic brick fence.
Okay. I was just thinking of transparency against that corner lot. I always have a problem with that. And I'm just wondering, just when it was approved to make it a 6-foot solid fence, and it was before my time. So.
So, just to clear it up for me, I'm a little confused on this. The fence that is approved and that will be built is the stucco?
Right. Yes.
So the water feature will be on the other side of the stucco fence?
Yeah, that was my concern where, that was my concern where they're putting something where nobody's going to see it anyway because it's not truly following the guidelines that we have now, that is really supposed to be transparent on a corner. So it's not like anyone's going to see the pool, so I don't know how it, even though it's on a side lot, who's going to see it?
I think is there a metal gate that's going in?
For the driveway?
For the driveway.
As it stands, it's a metal gate, and that's something I'm going to visit about and may have an additional CA to request that the gate as well be considered a stucco.
So that gate doesn't have a view?
I'd rather the gate be metal to have some transparency there than closing the whole thing in stucco along the whole side. But that's...
The gate's not, there's no gate there now. So, it was, previously I think it was metal. You've approved a metal gate already, so.
So I'll approve item 1 unless there's other comments. I'll move to approve that. Okay. Move to approve HPCA 14-00248, item 1, to replace the windows with the specific findings that the proposed work will not have an adverse effect on the historic character of the district or property and complies with all relevant guidelines and sections of the Municipal Code 2010 as referenced in Section C of the staff report.
Second.
Sir, would you like to speak on this item?
I have a couple of questions regarding this.
Okay. Before we vote, we need to hear that.
Do we need, we're continuing 2, is that correct?
We haven't got to those items yet.
Okay.
Sir? State your name and then sign in.
I'm Fred Krueger. You've probably seen my movies, but not the same. They didn't pay me anything, so. I live at 805 Northwest 39th, and I have some questions because I used to be on historical preservation in Crown Heights, lived there since '78. These questions are very simple. First of all, can you take the windows out and replace them before you people approve that?
You can do that, but then, like we've seen several cases happen today, they've come before us where the work has already been done, but then they do have to seek approval.
We review it as if the work had not been done.
Windows can be, people can remove window sash in order to repair them, and that does not necessarily require a CA if you are doing repair. I know that the applicant did remove several windows to attempt repairs, and we have photos of those attempted repairs. So I know there are several windows that are out on the house, if that's what you are.
Okay, so people ask us still, can I remove the windows, put them in, then go down and apply for? Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing would be, do the color of the windows and the frames, are they to meet what was there before when it was historical?
We actually don't regulate paint color on wood, trim, siding, et cetera, at all. So there's not review of that. I don't know if you have plans to paint.
Okay.
I think you previously approved colors, and they are the original.
There are colors on the drawings that were approved. We don't.
Third question is, when they are metal windows that you cannot replace anymore and no longer made, can they then put plastic windows in to replace them?
We generally would not approve a plastic window, no.
Okay, there was a question of people in our neighborhood as to whether these were plastic windows because they look that way since they're white versus the other, and they asked me to ask these questions. Thank you very much.
Good, thank you.
So to clear that up, what is the window, just for the record?
The
type of window, the new window.
The new windows are wood. They're wood, true divided light, thermal pane windows. Yep.
So they're painted wood on the outside?
Yep.
They're primered right now.
Primer right now. Thank you.
Okay, did we have a motion?
We could outfit a small army for what my window bill is, I can assure you.
We have a motion and a second.
Who made the motion? I can't remember.
Clements and Bourne.
Okay, so moved by Neela Craig Clements, second by Jennifer Bourne. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, item 1 is approved. Approved. Okay, items 2 and 3.
I'll also move to approve HPCA 14-00248, item 3, with unique circumstances. With the specific finding, the proposed work will not have an adverse effect on the historic character of the district or property, that the following unique circumstances exist, which is that the proposed fence does not strictly comply with all relevant guidelines, but is consistent with the Commission's previous approval for a fence in this location.
Are you talking about item 3? Yeah, okay.
Did I not say item 3? Sorry.
I'm sorry, I
Item
was
3.
looking at 2 for some
And what the rest of that sentence there in the staff report. And the items do not strictly comply with the relevant guidelines or are not addressed by them, but nonetheless consistent with the spirit and content of the guidelines and are in compliance with the relevant sections of Municipal Code 2010 as referenced in Section C and/or D of the staff report.
Second. Okay, so moved by Neela Craig Clements, second by Jeffrey Parks. All in favor?
Aye.
Nay? I'm running ahead of myself there. Okay, item 3 is approved with unique circumstance. Just want to take on 2.
I stepped out for a moment. Was there some discussion on that? The pool, the hot tub?
I just had questions but it would not, it does not sound like from the information that we were provided that if it was in a neighborhood that was not historic, that it would not be approved. Is this correct?
It would, if this were not zoned HP, this would be considered encroaching into the side yard and could not be built in another zoning. HP zoning does not carry those side yards and maybe front yard setbacks. So in this case, I don't know that.
I think they do.
I think they do.
They
too.
do.
Where are they?
Well, they have to look at the
The
plan.
side yard? I don't know, on a corner lot, I don't...
We don't have a
20 feet?
specific dimension. It defers to
Really?
the guidelines and to guidelines that talk about retaining, maintaining historic setbacks, but that is not specifically defined, and generally permitting will defer to an approval from the commission.
And I will say, most platted subdivisions have front yard setbacks. Oftentimes, older ones do not have side yard setbacks. All modern ones do, but sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
That's correct, and we did actually look and could not find a side yard setback requirement for Crown Heights on the plat, because that's the other thing that they check, is to see if the plat has a less restrictive side
They'll have
yard
a building
setback.
line and an easement in the rear. I swear I have a setback on the side yard in Edgemere, but you have to look at the plat, but the code review will define that, so.
Right.
Katie might opine, but I believe that there was a side yard pool permitted in April by commission with a very similar feature to my side yard construction. I actually have less pool than was approved, but...
I guess I'm saying if we approve it, zoning will catch it. Yes. So,
Right.
We're not...
There's no slide or anything, is there, like Halloween? That would be my only objection.
I think what I've noticed with this is that with the new garage, with the paving for the pool area, and the concrete for the drive, there's a lot of impermeable surfaces. And I know we've discussed that before in past cases about not covering everything up on the lot. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on that.
Ms. Clemens, we could go back and look at my prior comment that I made at a prior hearing. This is about the fourth I think I've been through. I worked the math on the volume of concrete to the entire lot prior to my ownership and after, including all of these features, and it was an increase in green space. So. I have a quite robust landscape architect who you're familiar with, so I believe that you'll be very pleasantly pleased with the end result. So.
Any commissioners have any thoughts?
And in fact, he's a landscape architect on the pool that was approved in April, if I'm not mistaken.
Does that requirement you're talking about have to do with like garage, new garage size?
Katie could probably better know this immediately, that, but it's something about, and I have to find the guideline.
Remember anything about?
Well, you're not covering the entire lot with concrete.
We have a guideline that is it's in a couple of sections that says, it says not to substantially alter the overall character of historic districts by reducing the ratio of open space to built space through new construction additions or introduction of surface paving or other hardscape features.
Okay. There's no percentage or nothing?
No, there's not a strict percentage.
So it's
We've
subjective.
looked at that with new structures, with paving, that sort of thing. There's
So,
not
Mr. Penton, including the addition of the pool and whirlpool, you're saying that the landscaping area, the grassy area is more?
Been increased, that's right.
I'll just go back to the pool. If we're looking at the guidelines where it says swimming pools, hot tubs, and similar structures shall be located in backyards and shall not encroach into side setbacks or utilities, do we have a circumstance that allows it to be on the side of the house?
It's a side setback, but we're saying...
It's also behind a brick wall.
But it's still on the side, right?
Right, I'm just saying it says shall be located in backyards.
But there's no setback we know of.
There's what?
You talking about a zoning setback? There's none we know of, right?
No, I'm just reading
She's
our
talking about
guideline.
there is a specific guideline to
There's a specific
pools.
guideline for swimming pools in the preservation guidelines, 25.33. Swimming pools, hot tubs, and similar structures shall be located in backyards and shall not encroach into side setbacks or utility easements.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They said side setbacks, didn't just say the side of the house.
But It says shall be located in backyards.
Yeah, it does say that.
It does say.
And shall not encroach into side setbacks. It doesn't mean that, swimming pools, hot tubs, and similar structures shall not be located in backyards, period.
Shall be located.
Shall be located in the backyard.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Yes, so
Thank you for the clarification.
And
Right.
behind the house.
Yes.
So that's,
So that would be the way I read it.
that's what I read too then. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. It's good.
It's a
Be
backyard.
wondering what we're going to do with this.
It's, to me, it's clear cut, that the pool has to be in the backyard, and as proposed, it's not completely in the backyard.
Okay.
Okay.
We did approve a side yard pool,
That was a bit.
but there wasn't room in the backyard for a pool, if I remember right. It was a shallow, very shallow
It's a
backyard.
much larger area, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I think I have the plans for that approval, and I think there was room in the backyard for the pool.
That
Some
one,
things might have had to been reconfigured, but there was definitely room in the backyard to construct a pool, so. And it was just, I think it was in April of this year.
Yeah.
Well, at any rate, we had a unique circumstance for that one, I'm sure.
I mean, Katie, would you generally note that in your specific findings? I guess that's why I'm reading it in the guidelines, but it's not a finding. That pools should be located, that pools shall be located in the backyard. I'm just wondering.
Now that you, interpreted it that way, I see it, yeah. Okay, so.
you're right, I didn't reference that specific guideline in the finding, although it's listed in the staff report. If I remember right, the one in, well, ironically, the pool, the side yard pool that was approved in April later came back to us to administratively amend their application and put the pool in the backyard after it was approved in the side yard, which was kind of, so there was room in the back. I think there was discussion about, because that site, it was a interior lot, and it was elevated quite a bit from the street, so I think the consensus was that because of the elevation, because there was already, that area of the yard was already previously paved, that it was going to be a minimally visible change.
Well, this has been minimally visible too, but it does say backyard.
So I think what we're running into now is that guideline 2.5.33 that says swimming pools shall be located in backyards. Of course, we want you to have your pool, but I don't know that there's a unique circumstance that would allow it to be in the side yard there versus in the backyard.
Well, I'll have to go back and look at,
So I wonder if we should continue this item to give you a chance to have a look at that.
that'd be great.
Okay. To April?
Sure.
Okay. I move to continue HPCA 14-00248, item 2, to the April 1st meeting.
Second.
Moved by Neil Crank Clemens, a second by Jennifer Bourne. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Item 2 is continued. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, next case. Item.
HPCA 15-0004 at 3301 North Harvey Parkway, Edgemere Park, Ward 2. Consideration and possible application and possible action on application of Oklahoma City Parks and Recreation by Brent Wall for certificate of appropriateness to, and I'm not going to read all of it, but make improvements to Edgemere Park.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Brown,
The applicant?
Commissioners. My name is Brent Wall. I'm a landscape architect with the Oakland City Parks Department. The project you have in front of you today is a 2007 listed general obligation bond project. At its core, it is meant to be a sidewalk and path project to increase accessibility into the park. What we have proposed, I will tell you, is the outcome of a very robust public engagement process. We had we had one meeting in our office. We had one meeting at one of the residents of the neighborhood at their home.
We also had 2 public meetings, one at Edgemere Elementary and one at Iron Star Urban Barbecue, where we had several members of the neighborhood come and vote on their proposed project. As I said, it is primarily a walking path. What we're proposing is a base project of a 6-foot wide integrated color concrete path around the edge of the park. We also have a series of what we call overlooks, which are meant to lead you into the park with a destination where you can sit or have a game table or simply just stand and have an access point into the park. While we're at it, we're proposing to demolish some fencing that is a protective fencing for the stream that goes through. That's a chain link fence that looks very bad right now. We're proposing to come in and try to improve the bridge at Eubank Street. And we're proposing to remove some existing flower beds, some old signage that's in the park, as well as consolidate some of the regulatory traffic signage, remove some of the park ordinance signage and consolidate those onto maybe one sign as opposed to 5 or 6 or 7. And we're proposing to also kind of clean up some of the neighborhood identity and branding elements that are at the park at this time. That's the core project, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thanks. Brent? Complicated, any questions?
I think I'd like to hear from, I see maybe some Edgemere people are here. Jan,
there are
you going to
some.
speak on this? I didn't know if you wanted to speak to what you mentioned in your email, how you wished some of the items would be continued.
Right. I mean, we've been working with Brent for a long time.
State your name.
Sorry, Jan Hook.
Sign in too. So.
Okay. 3101 North Harvey Parkway.
We know
Sort
you,
of.
but we,
Sort of.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions while Jan's signing?
Okay, well, we've been working with Brent for a long time, and so I think just some of the items, as he's been extremely busy and pulling things together, that there are just some things that we want clarification on, and so the neighborhood has generally, for the most part, been supportive, and I think that we just like to work on some of the details with him, continue to work with him.
The question I've got for Brad, how does that affect the bid? You're going to want to bid this. How does it affect if we continue this until April or whatever?
We've gone ahead and gone through our in-house technical review. We got those comments back. They were minimal. So we're pretty much ready to go. Pending the outcome of the meeting today, I could walk out of here and start that process very quickly. I will note that this park is packaged in with several other parks, 2 of which were approved earlier, so it does somewhat affect my whole package of parks going out if we have any delay on this site today.
Right, and I have to say that Parks Department has worked with the neighborhood real closely on this. There's just a lot of detail in it that we've talked about. So,
I think because of that, we probably do need to pay attention to the HP Review Committee in Edgemere. They do request that some items be continued that staff has recommended approval on. Item 3, item 4, item 5, they've asked to be continued.
And staff has recommended continue on 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17.
I'm trying to find the email from Jan, item 9 there, install new metal and concrete barrier in place of pipe rail at bridge. Which item is that on our? 9. Item 9. So they're asking to continue 3, 4, 5, and 9. Staff is recommending continuance on items 11 through 17. Is that right?
so that's my point.
After you, can I ask a question to Brent?
Deb, would you like to speak? Want to say something, Doug? Or?
I just,
We have this, we have her comment on 9. We do. You can have this back if you need it.
could you just respond to, I mean, do you have any comments on the items that the neighborhood and staff are suggesting for continuance?
I do.
I apologize. I meant to send this to Brent this morning, and I did not.
Okay. One thing I would like to note is that we had a voting process, and so whenever we engaged the neighborhood in our first meeting on September 9th of last year, what I did is I came to the neighborhood, and we proposed 3 separate options. One was the back of curb option. One was what we called an inside interior option, which was a sidewalk 40 to 50 feet off the street that was more interior and more serpentine and kind of meandering, responding to existing topography. And the last one was what we called the back of curb with the overlooks, which was really a combination of the two. The third option was voted upon, and really on the vote was contingent. The neighborhood was hesitant to vote on the back of curb option without the overlooks with it, because they wanted a sort of a compromise between the two. We also, when we had our November 2nd meeting, we put it up for a vote again, and we had the same result. So the items that you're seeing, from what I could tell, were there's some concern about the overlooks going down, landing on the landing, some of the grading and things like that. The process is very interesting because as a landscape architect, what I'm trying to do is trying to enhance that experience, and actually by lowering the grade down, try to keep those views, preserve those views from the street down into the park without seeing the site furnishings and the benches. So I'm trying to kind of sort of depress that down a little bit. Some of them you're going to have a little bit of fill on the downside, and what we've proposed is to use the same red sandstone that's actually down in the creek to retain that. So we're trying to do some landscape effects that make these things look like they've always been there, and to try to do that in a very sensitive way. In terms of the columns, really we added that in because we thought it would be an HP bonus. Actually, we went and part of our process was to go back and pull plans from the 30s, and we found the original plans for the bridge, and we recreated those columns exactly as they were constructed. So we were kind of throwing those in because we felt like it added a little bit more historic character. So a lot of times it's interesting to see what different interpretations are. I know your job is to interpret our plan as it relates to the regulations. So, I'm not here to put up a fight for anything. I'm here just to try to simply explain our thought process, our design process, and how we engaged the community and how we tried to give them what they asked for.
Brett, I have a question on that. The comments about changing grading for the overlooks, those types of things. Mm-hmm. Is there extensive regrading or not?
I wouldn't say extensive. Some of it is just when we're bringing the 5-foot wide sidewalk down into the park, we are required to meet ADA. So some of that is we're just trying to keep those sidewalks less than 5% longitudinal slope. So some of that's just grading that was required. Some of it, I would say, was probably elective grading, where we are carving back into some of the existing hills. But as I said, it's meant to kind of settle and kind of nest that down into the landscape so that you can look over them. One of the things, it's difficult because on one side of the park you're looking over, but on the other side of the park you're looking at it. So there's no way to really totally mask it totally. But what we're trying to do is sort of set those things down and sort of, create an experience as you walk through.
So you don't see a lot of grading necessary to do that?
I don't see it as, I think the report listed it as extensive. I wouldn't say that it's extensive.
Is there a grading plan prepared? Or?
There is, yeah. And I'm
just curious, we don't have it though. But.
And really the back of curb option, the only grading that you're seeing is just things that there's a couple of places where there's a little bit of fill in order to bring that curb or the sidewalk out from the curb. The grading for the overlooks is listed on each one of the alternate plans, starting on EP 9. So EP 9 through EP 11. And, you know, I'll kind of mirror what Catherine said. Some of this doesn't print as legibly, so it's really difficult to see the existing contour lines as opposed to what we're proposing.
Okay, so it's on there, we just can't see it.
Yeah, so the existing contours are very difficult to see here. But as listed in the project scope of work, the most that we're filling in any one area is 2 to 3 feet at most coming up, or going down 2 feet. So sort of a cut and fill balance of about 24 inches or so in each location.
What about the comment about removing trees? I was under the impression that only diseased or dying trees were going to be...
So we have 13 trees proposed to be removed. 12 of those are Siberian elms, which we know from some of our older surveys that they've been out there since the early 60s at least, pretty much reaching the end of their life cycle. Actually taking pictures of them in their winter condition really showed their form. A lot of them are pretty gnarly. They're pretty ice damaged. So those are the ones that we're proposing. There is one sycamore that's just smack dab in the middle of one of the archways that connects the two ADA ramps. That's one I really wouldn't want to lose, and if that becomes an issue, we could probably work our way around it. The problem we have with our projects is that, you know, a tree is not forever, but we try to make concrete for forever, so it's always weird to make concrete go around something that's not going to be there in the future, and then the next time some poor soul has to come back and do this, they're going to go, you know, why did they do this, or, you know, what was the historic preservation thought in, you know, doing that. So, you know, I'm the biggest tree person there is. I don't want to take them out, but honestly, I think we're going to have a better result, and we can come back and replace those one-to-one and start a new cycle of trees for the next generation.
Anybody else have any questions?
I just have a question about site furnishings. You list a lot here, and I mean, you've gone through with games, with game tables and chairs and things like that. That's really great. I just think about, and this is horrible, but when I'm in a park, like garbage cans, things like that, I don't see anything here for waste disposal. Maybe I'm missing it.
Yeah, we don't have funding for trash cans right now.
Okay.
As Jan noted, we've been working together for quite a long time. The end goal for us, this is really kind of the beginning of our work with Edgemere Park. Our end goal is to produce a master plan for the park where we'll have a whole suite of site furnishings, dog waste stations, trash cans, all those things that will go together. And in our next phase, we'd really like to look at the stream itself because it has a lot of issues. So we have a lot more work to do together. This is just sort of the beginning, but we're definitely thinking about this.
You just listed a bunch of other ones, so I was thinking, wow, they have great tables but no trash cans. So
Yeah.
I was just wondering the thought process, if you're talking about your process behind that, and you answered that question.
Okay, good.
I think because this is such an extensive project and it is for the community, you know, it sounds like you have been working closely with Edgemere. But it's clear from the letter from the commission there that more than half the items they still want more information on. It seems to me those items, you might need to work with them more in order to answer all of their questions, to get their backing. I wouldn't be comfortable moving forward and approving those items because of their concerns. I'd probably continue those, which there's a lot of them.
Well,
There's 11.
I mean, are they going to be satisfied, though? I mean, is it always going to be a talk? I mean, is it going to be forever?
You know, you said this is just the beginning of your work with them. Is it worth having another meeting? Maybe some of the residents from Edgemere can speak to that.
My question is, you've met 3 times? Is that?
We've had 2 formal public meetings. And
How many attended?
I would say at the, I learned that I should have had a sign-in sheet, so I would answer that question. At the September 8th meeting, I would say we had about 30, and then at the November 2nd, we had about 40 or I'd say probably 40 to 50 people. And Councilman Shadid was the moderator for that event. So it was pretty well attended, and we've had a lot of really good debate. And I've sent a lot of emails, and I've talked on the phone with the neighborhood leadership a lot.
Do you feel like that you've gotten down to the details specifically on the ones that they're concerned about, that it's been fully explained, or do you just think that would you say it's more of a consensus of the overall idea?
The site, the soil filling and cutting, I can see where that's a concern. That's something that if you don't do it a lot and you're trying to read it in a plan, it's very hard to visualize. We did provide a color rendering of what those overlooks would look like, just to try to kind of help that process along. The signage on the light poles, this is the first time I've seen this, so I'm trying to kind of digest this right now. We've had some discussions about things like doing historic stop signs and things like that. I can tell you that our traffic department has basically said that they don't stock those items, so if it gets knocked down, they can't just go out there and change it. So even though this is an HP area, you're pretty much going to get the standard stop sign. So that was a little bit of an issue. That's not something we can't approve in the future. And so what other? So the concrete barrier, item 9, that was an item that was sort of a detail at the end of the process, and the neighborhood hadn't seen that before this came out and saw the detail of it. If we need to work on that, I don't see any reason why we can't refine that a little bit. I mean, that's part of the process. So I'm looking at this image. This image here, this is the standard bridge that Public Works did a long time ago. They actually just replicated on Western right as you're going towards 63rd. This isn't really compliant for us because the openings are more than 4 inches, so we wouldn't do that here. The design that I did was basically based upon going back and looking at the existing bridge at Northwest 35th, trying to replicate that as much as I could with some steel details and things like that. But if we want to look at that a little bit more, if we want to look at that a little bit more, I don't have a problem doing that. That would be fine with me.
But I know you want to move the project forward. Is it possible, I know you've got alternates for the lookouts. The base is just the sidewalk.
They are, yeah.
Is it possible to do that and then delay action on the rest of it, which is the alternates, basically?
Yeah.
To allow you to proceed with the bid on the base? I think everybody's kind of approving that. Is that possible?
Yeah, actually, if we walked out of here today with the base approved, that would get me on my way. That would be good, and then we can continue to work on these and come back to the commission with any kind of alterations that we need to.
I remember we talked about the sidewalk and the perimeter. You have to rebuild that north bridge in order to provide access for the sidewalk.
Right.
And I kind of agree with the comments about the bridge being, we like the one on 36 on a Western. Maybe it could be modified a little bit, more columns, whatever. Mm-hmm. Could we get that in the base? Is there time, or because you have to do that in order to do the sidewalk, right?
Yeah, and right now the base bid is just the loop between Northwest 35th to 32nd. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Alternate 1 is everything north of 35th to Eubanks. So the bridge is included in alternate 1 at this time.
Okay, I thought the base was all the way around.
I'm sorry. Yes.
The bridge.
Yes.
You have to do the bridge to the sidewalk.
So could you tell us what items that you would want to be approved today that were included in the base, so we could consider approving those items?
So items 1, 2, 4, pretty much everything. So obviously item 9, you want to go back and look at a little bit more. So 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 10. Now, item 3 is...
Not 8?
Let's go back.
Yeah, that's alternate option.
Yeah, that's part of the other bit.
Where is 8?
Item 8, that's the bridge.
Elective, it's an elective.
It's demolish pipe barrier at bridge on West Eubank Street. It's number 8.
Yes. But we can't, I can't demolish it without having the approval to go back and replace it with something, so...
So that's part of option 1.
Yeah.
Or alternate 1.
Right.
So are you saying you need approval for items 1 through 10?
Yeah, item 3 is the grading, and I have to be able to have the ability to grade in order to make the sidewalk ADA compliant. So 3 needs to be in there. 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm sorry, I'm just not seeing where 8 is.
Oh, if you look on the front page of the staff report, on the very front page, it lists.
Oh, sorry, thank you. Yeah, so we can leave 8 out for now. Part of this too is that if I can get my base bid as part of the construction process, I could do the other parts of the project as an amendment to the contract. So that could give us a little bit of time to look at this and get a bridge design that everybody's really happy with, and then implement it into the project after we get going. So that's an option.
You piqued my interest just slightly on the historic signage, street signage.
Mm-hmm.
Was that for the entire Edgemere neighborhood or for just around the park?
Just at the park right now, there are 2 signs, one at the corner of Northwest 36th and Hudson, and then one at Eubanks and Harvey Parkway, right as it swings around. There's 2, they're just little half-moon signs that have been there for a long time. And since then, they've put the banners on the light poles in the park, so that's really taking over that identity function. So we're just proposing to take those 2 small little markers out of the project. Yeah, so items 11 through 16, we can continue all the way down to 17.
That's what staff had anyway, to continue.
Yeah.
As you said, as well as 8 and 9. Those were part of your alternative
Yes.
1? Okay.
So that leaves 3, 4, 5, and 9 that the neighborhood is, the HP committee has concerns.
Okay, do you want to work through those individually so we can determine which ones need to be worked on?
Is item 4, is that part of the base?
Yes, I mean,
It doesn't have to be. I mean, I could pull it out. I mean,
Allow us to work on that too, then.
yeah.
So.
So item 3 is, that's an essential one because I need that one. 4 can come out. 5 really needs to be worked out because the existing regulatory traffic signage is about 2 feet off of the curb, and that's where the sidewalk needs to go, so they're kind of in the way. So we actually haven't gone in and really figured out how we would attach that sign to the light pole. It's kind of something that we would get in sort of a submittal from our traffic contractor.
Is the alternate to that just relocate the pole?
I can't. Well, the MUTCD requires that I have that pole within 2 feet of the back of the curb. So otherwise, you're going to have metal or galvanized poles in the sidewalk. So it's a little bit of an issue. I mean, so I'm trying to improve the look of the park and solve that issue of having poles in the middle of the sidewalk.
Item 3, in relation to the back of curb option, there's not much grading, is there?
There's not. There is one area that's, I think it's in between Hill and Northwest 34th, that it drops off right there, and there's actually a head wall that daylights from a street storm sewer. So where I'm actually having to rebuild that little head wall there, and so it's got to be graded up a little bit to bring the sidewalk through. So that's the one area that really is going to need a little bit of grading work. But
basically just following the curb.
Yeah.
So not much change.
So perhaps if 3 had the condition that it grading and fill soil is only related to the base bid as being approved and not the rest of the changes to the park. Would maybe address some of those concerns with that item 3.
Yeah, I mean, we're not really concerned about the grading. I think it's the sidewalk along the curb.
Right, it's the lookouts. Right. Okay.
So you said you can pull out 9 also. You were going to talk more with them on 9?
Yeah, we can pull 9 out.
9 is part of alternate 1.
Yeah.
Okay, and then 5, that's the only other one that the committee wanted to continue.
Yeah, and that item doesn't necessarily concern me that much. There's only so many ways you can affix a metal sign to a pole, so I'd be happy to work with the neighborhood through the submittal process to show what our options are and choose the best one.
So then we could approve, are we looking to approve 1, 2, 3, with the condition on 3, 6, 7, 8, and 10? Does that sound right?
Well, 5 as well.
Not 8? Well, staff is recommending approval. The committee doesn't have a problem with it, so.
Which one?
8.
1.
8.
Well, you can't demolish that until you build a new one. That's an alternate 1.
Okay, so we're going to pull out 8.
Right.
Okay.
5, Brett said that
he would work.
they work with the neighborhood during the submittals to figure out how to attach them.
So do we leave that or do we pull it?
Do we need to leave it, Brent, or can we?
Item 5?
Can we continue that one? Give you time to work with them?
Yeah, we can continue that. We've got a little bit of time to do
easy.
that.
Okay, I was going to say, if you can just put a condition on that they,
Yeah.
if you could just put a
Gotta get you on
condition on
tape.
that. What?
We got to get you on recording.
If you could just put a condition on that he'll work with the neighborhood and we can approve the attachment method.
Because conceptually, you're not opposed to the signage being on the light posts. It's just concerned about how the attachment happens, right?
Exactly.
Kind of that
Right.
detail.
Well, I still just continue it because it's not part of the sidewalk.
But don't the signs have to be removed?
Oh, we have to, because you have to take the existing ones out. That's right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, they'll have to be, we do have a temporary traffic signage unit cost line item, and because, when they take the stop signs out, we'll have to have some barricades out there, so we could conceivably have the signage in place during the construction process and then figure out the proper attachment for those signs if we needed to. But I need those signs out of the way to sort of push through.
I just have one more question about what we're actually going to ask Brent to do in order to get the other items non-continued in the future, because usually we have a request for them to, he's saying that he had large attendance at meetings. Is it one more meeting to present and complete, or?
I'm not going to speak for the neighborhood. I think it's probably a small.
So aren't 3 meetings the minimum that you're required to have on a project like this?
They've had their meetings.
Right? You've had 3 meetings?
I've never heard of
So
that.
I'm just saying, if we make a motion and we have a continuance, then what are we asking? What are the conditions of the,
Well, I was wondering, too, if you bid the base, what happens to the alternate? You bid them later, or what do you do?
We'll bid them at the same time. Part of the reason why we've had to break this out so much is we just did a bid for Sparrow Park, which is just to the south. The concrete on that came in at $77 a square yard, which our highest bid we'd ever had was $55. So what looked like a base bid to do all the back of curb sidewalk, then I needed to pull that north part out just to be safe. I'm hoping that we can do it, but concrete prices are just a little bit crazy right now.
That north bridge is going to make that
Right.
alternate 1 expensive.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So the idea is just to pull out, when we've pulled out every overlook into its own alternate, so if that way, if we get good bids, and then the neighborhood could prioritize and say, well, we want to do one in this area, or we want to do this one in this area. But alternate one would be our priority first.
So I guess my question, you're going to go ahead and bid it, including the alternates, just the base is approved, and the neighborhood, working with Parks, changes the design, say, of the bridge or whatever. How does that, is it change order then to the bid? Okay.
Yeah. So, it may be safer for us just to pull that bridge component out. I think as it is now, that the pipe barrier that's there would probably suffice. But, it's back a little bit. It just looks bad more than anything. I mean, to me, this is an opportunity to go in and really improve that.
Definitely doesn't meet ADA.
Yeah.
I wanted to note, before we get to the point that the Commission's making motions, that in addition to the neighborhood's concerns, the staff report raised several concerns about the effect of these changes on the historic nature of the park, on adding a lot of paving, a lot of regrading, et cetera. So I think it sounds like we're going to continue all of those items in any case, because they're not part of the base bid, but just wanted to raise that, and if the Commission has any feedback.
Would anybody from the neighborhood else like to talk about before we take a vote? Or there's other people? Nobody? Okay. No? Okay.
I'll take the items to continue. I'll recommend a continuance on number HPCA 15-00004, items 4, 8, 9, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17 to the April 1st meeting.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Okay, so moved by Nita Crane Clevens, second by Jeffrey Parks. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, those items are continued.
And now, I think I have this clear. I recommend approval, HPCA 15-0004, items 1, 2. I have a question of Rita. Can I lump together, item 3, I'd like to put a condition on it. Item 5, I would like to put a condition on it. Can I just recommend approval for all of those and then add the conditions? Or do I have to recommend approval with the condition for those separately from the ones that do not have conditions?
Since they're all for approval, you could lump them together by specifically saying as you move that item what the condition is.
Okay, so I recommend approval of 1, 2, 3, and on item 3, the condition is that the grading and infill soil is only related to the base bid and not other changes. Approval on item 5 with the condition that Mr. Wall will work with the neighborhood to determine an attachment method. Item 6 and item 7. With the specific findings listed in the staff report, omit item specific finding number 2, but keep 1, 3, 4, and 5.
What was that? Omit which item?
On page 10 of 12, staff listed the specific findings. Item 2 doesn't relate to this one, because we pulled that one out.
Okay, we'll add that finding.
Right? Okay, that's it.
I think you were intending to include approval of item 10 with that motion as well.
And item 10, yes.
Second.
Okay, it's moved by Nita Crane Clevens, second by Jennifer Bourne. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, those items are approved.
All right, thank you very much.
Condition. I'd like to make one point. When we have the meeting somehow to talk about the detail, as Katie mentioned, the city planning department has certain issues also. Could we include them in the discussion?
Sure.
I would like to do that.
Yeah, and that's another outcome of this whole process, is that anytime that we engage an HP neighborhood, we're going to include the planning department in that.
We haven't at this point, but now we should.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right, next item.
Okay, we have, the remaining items are 3 identical applications. I know that's the very last thing, but if people want to take a 5-minute break, we usually break at 4, and it's 4:45.
Okay, want to take a 5-minute break? 5-minute break. We'll reconvene at 4:50.
Whoa, you're hooked, girl.
I make a motion to reconvene.
Second. Aye.
Okay. HPCA 15-00006 at 615 Northwest 20th Street, Mesta Park, Ward 6. Consideration and possible action on application of Sunbeam Property 3 LLC by Marva Ellard for certificate of appropriateness to 1, convert portion of structure to attached garage, elective. 2, replace sidewalk with ribbon driveway, elective. 3, extend hip roof to front gables with porch, elective. 4, relocate and replace front door, elective. 5, replace back door, elective. 6, install French doors in 2 locations, elective. 7, relocate window set, elective. 8, install fence and gate, elective. 9, install front walkway, elective. And 10, install new kitchen window, elective.
I need to turn on my microphone.
So I'm just going to dive right into this. And the only problem I have is with the attached garage. The Sanborns show that as late as 1955, it was a one-story dwelling with a detached garage. I think the preference would be to go back with the detached garage. Is that a possibility?
We can't get a driveway between the buildings. When Sunbeam built these cottages, as they call them, they pretty much are about 40-something feet wide, so there's no space. Neil, I don't know if you can see on any of the pictures, there's hardly any space between them to even walk through them, so you can't get a driveway.
What about, is there an alley behind?
Alley's been vacated and it's been taken into the back parking lot of Sunbeam. We tried that too, but
Yeah, I just don't love the idea of an attached garage. That's my only thought on this.
That's probably the best picture where you can see me standing on the sidewalk doing I don't know what, but the eaves of the houses are probably 3 or 4 feet apart, and so they're close.
So, and I would say, they've chosen to put the garage on the farthest back part of the dwelling instead of like you would typically see on a suburban home where it would be the frontmost part of the dwelling. And then with the ribbon driveway, that helps to mitigate the amount of concrete in your front yard, which is nice as well.
And we're building porches on it to bring the front farther out.
Further forward, right.
And moving the front doors to the front of the buildings to try to draw attention away from that side. And like Commissioner Parks said, the ribbon driveway and recessing the door, we're trying to minimize it as much as we can.
Margaret, did I see, is it a tandem garage in one of them?
I'm sorry?
Tandem garage?
It sort of is, yes.
You can get 2 cars maybe?
You can get 1 car inside, and you can get another car on the driveway. We're trying to get cars out of the street and at least have a covered space for a car.
Yeah.
So we're actually giving up about 300 square feet of living space to accommodate a garage in the structure.
To me, the style of the house is so more of a 70s, or I don't know what era this is.
Late 60s probably.
I
is when they were
don't
built.
see a need for a detached garage just because it's in HP Mesta Park myself. I think it integrates well into what you've done.
We're trying to keep a scale that is compatible with the neighborhood, and the hip roofs don't do anything to give them any architectural features, so we thought if we pulled those hips up into gables and did a porch and moved the front door, that would help a lot as far as to give it a walk up to the front door, and that would actually help make them fit in scale-wise a little bit better in the block than they do. Ken, that works for Catherine Montgomery, I'm going to say fondly, I don't know if it's fondly or not, refers to them as the Three Stooges. And so I don't know which one is Larry, Moe, or Curly, but anyway, so we don't want them to be that, but and we don't want them to be a Disneyland reproduction of a 1920s bungalow, but we do want them to have some of the elements and some of the scale of a 1920s bungalow. So that's what we're trying to do. And I agree with Commissioner Clements, if it was a perfect world, we'd have garages behind. It's just, they just went almost lot line to lot line when they built them.
Well, you're interfacing also with the football building, which just puts it off in a whole other thing to me.
It's an interesting campus.
Just for my memory, did we, just to go to one new thing here, not to discuss it, but is there a number of apartments that will be in the old school or the old
Up to
dormitory?
13 is...
You're 13. Right. I was just thinking about cars and parking.
We decided to start on these. We've already done most of our demolition work in the 615 building because we think it'll have a drastic impact on that block of 20th to get these to look differently than they have for a long time. And so I think we'll have one of them done hopefully late spring.
And you're already leasing the football building, right? Did I see a sign about that?
We're trying to decide, well, we've got some different options on that. We're trying to decide if we want to lease that and to a tenant that would work well, kind of being cohabitating with us, because the whole thing is kind of like having somebody living in part of your house.
Live, work.
I mean, well, they're just kind of in the middle of everything, so we want to make sure it's the right match for us and for the neighborhood. And then we've had a couple of inquiries from people who are interested in it possibly being a single-family residence. So it would be a big house. It's like 6,900 square feet. So,
wow.
So I don't know what we're going to do with it yet.
Okay. More questions on the case?
I'd move to...
I don't have any more questions, and I do appreciate the changes to the exterior with that gable roof. I think it does fit in a lot better. So I'm good.
Well, I would move approval of HPCA 15-0010 with the unique circumstances and specific findings as found in the staff report.
Okay, that was for 10, and they also have 6 and 9. Just to...
Am I going in the wrong? Oh.
You went...
Well, actually, in the staff report, it says 10.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, so I'm not totally crazy. But yes, we'll start with number 6, with the same unique circumstances and specific findings.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, moved by Jeffrey Parks and second by Neither Clements. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, item case 6 is approved.
I would move to approve HPCA 15 oh, do we need to introduce these cases one by one?
If you're voting on each of them, we're still in that item, so you can just say and number.
Well, no, we've completed that item. We have 3 separate items that are nearly identical.
3 separate cases.
3 separate
Okay,
applications.
so,
3 separate cases. Yeah.
so 14, 15, and 16.
Yes.
And you just voted on number 14.
Yes.
Okay,
So now
what
we're
was-
moving on to the next case.
What was 6?
That was case 6. Now we're voting on 9.
Oh, this 6.
Yeah,
Okay,
sorry.
I thought it was this
Yeah, right,
6.
okay.
No. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So do you have to introduce it? or-
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I do. Thank you.
I was going to be on a really fast roll, but
Yeah.
I'll wait for you. All right.
I'm glad you clarified that.
HPCA 15-0009 at 609 Northwest 20th Street, Domestic Park, Ward 6. Consideration and possible action on application of Sunbeam Property 3 LLC by Marva Ellard for certificate of appropriateness with the same work items as the previous application.
I would
Any comments? Is there a motion?
move to approve HPCA 15-00009 with the unique circumstances and specific findings found in the staff report.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Jeffrey Parks and seconded at this time by Ann Zacharitz. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Item 9's, case 9's approved. And
HPCA 15-00010 at 621 Northwest 20th Street, Domestic Park, Ward 6. Consideration and possible action on application of Sunbeam Property for certificate of appropriateness 2, same work items as previous application.
oh, come on, read them.
This one is totally different. I'm just going to, no. No, actually, again, I would move approval of HPCA 15-00010 with the unique circumstances and specific findings found in the staff report.
Second.
Been moved by Jeffrey Parks, seconded by Ann Zacharitz. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Case 10's approved. And so that's the last of our individual cases. Other business? None. Communications and reports.
Administrative approvals, can answer questions about those if anyone has any. We had no withdrawals or closures to report and nothing from City Council to report. We do have one case going to Board of Adjustment on February 19th, and that's the recent denial of William Jefferson's application. This was one with fence, outdoor kitchen, doors replaced, et cetera, and that was denied, and he's appealed it.
So there's no date yet?
It's February 19th.
I got a notice from the neighbor. Okay, anything, Planning Commission? None. Anything from the municipal councilor? None. Next meeting date for the commission is March 4th, 2 p.m. right here. The applications have been received February 3rd, which was yesterday, and new information for must be submitted by February 10th. Next regular scheduled meeting for the workshop, Historic Preservation Workshop, is February 11th from 11:30 to 1:30, 420 West Main, Suite 900. Any commissioners have items? Any citizens left? All right, we're adjourned.